Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today we're going to find out if Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness is worth owning physically.
Worth owning physically, if you should see it in theaters at this point.
At this point, still.
Thankfully still.
At
least for now.
For now, you can still see it in theaters or, buy it when it's on sale. Basically, we're here to find out if it's worth owning physically.
Physically or just if it's worth taking something away.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about this one. I immediately texted Deshaun after I saw this saying, this is cinema. And I was memeing, but I kind of meant it, guys. Yeah. I kind of mean it.
I came out of it like texting you just like, it was really fucking good. It feels Sam Raimi as fuck. I can see your concerns, that listeners being like, I saw it and I didn't like it. I thought that no. I can see your concerns and we're gonna bring that up today. Yeah. So don't worry, we're not just gonna be fanboying for Sam Raimi here, which there will be a little bit. There will be a little bit of it. Because I think that's first and foremost of my review here, is I went in being like, oh, I hope this isn't just another lackluster Doctor Strange movie. And what I got was Marvel's Evil Dead. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's a pretty good segue into like bringing up what we thought of the first one.
Yes. I think that Doctor Strange, the first one, is forgettable.
I like it fine.
It's fine.
I've mentioned this before.
It's fine.
A couple times, actually. That like it was the first comic book movie that I had like ever seen where I finally felt like origin story fatigue, because I'm used to it. I've read comics, I've seen Superman, I've seen Krypton blow up so many fucking times, and it never really bothers me. But with this one, it really felt like, oh, can we please just get to the fucking point?
Yes. I feel like the first half an hour is really wasted for a character that's already very strange, and you could have just summed it up really fast. They were like, no, this is the first magic movie, so we need to take it slow.
For as much as people love to like praise the MCU, it's like they just go for it, man. They just do the comics. It's like they were so fucking afraid of magic.
So afraid of magic.
They didn't want to do the Mandarin properly. They didn't want to do this. Oh, it's just didn't want to do magic.
As magic, it was just science.
And it's a shame, especially like in a post Shang-Chi world where we've seen like a version of the Mandarin, and you thought about like, oh man, if Iron Man 3 would have been like this magic versus technology thing, that would have been dope.
Sick.
That would have been cool.
Sick. I think that Doctor Strange has a really cool ending. I think once we get to the Doctor Strange bit, that's the cool part. Obviously, all the origin shit, you're like, the thing I obviously point to is how well they were able to handle the origin in the What If episode without, being like, here's the same movie again. They were able to sum it up in less than 10 minutes, but this movie couldn't, And
I also felt like the variety of spells was kind of lacking in that first movie.
Yeah, it's
like
just
it was
shields.
Like the runes and the runes and the runes, and you had like the the mirror dimension, like Inception shit, and the turning back time. But I'm like, you got like three things here. I want to see crazy magic shit.
They make fun of that in this movie. Mm-hmm. That like Doctor Strange's 3 spells are not gonna work this fucking time. Because he's got 3 spells. And then when he's got teleport, shield, and mirror dimension.
The coolest stuff he would do is like his
even
fight
in Spider-Man, he uses mirror dimension, shields, and dimension punch, I guess, is what he does.
It's like portal punch,
which doesn't come out here at all. You're like
the coolest thing he does, at least before this movie, was like his fight with Thanos, where he was doing a bunch of crazy shit. I'm like, this is what I wanted in his actual movie.
And that's really.
And I get it. You got to build him up. He's not going to be like a powerful sorcerer right off the bat, but still, just go.
Can we go?
Yeah.
Can we go? If you had started the movie being like, Doctor Strange has all the he's Sorcerer Supreme, has all these powers, and then you went from there, I would have just loved that. You didn't need to explain the Doctor Strange. His name's Doctor Strange. I don't need to know more, bro.
Even in like lesser versions, like that Doctor Strange animated movie they did like a while back, even that like condenses his origin fairly well and just fucking goes for it. Yes. And that's mostly because it's forced to, because it's like, oh, this movie can only be like 50 minutes long.
They're like, got it for some goddamn reason. You don't have budget for more than 60 minutes. So they're like, okay.
Just fucking go.
Just go. I agree. And that's the thing is I think there's lots of great Doctor Strange comics, and they're able to sum up his origins in like 2 images. You know, like, because everyone understands, like, the Batman thing, you know, of being like, go off into the fucking snow and find the master, you know, like, and that's kind of what, you know, like, they're basically Batman Beginnings, Doctor Strange here, you know, in Doctor Strange 1. And it was just kind of like, it was definitely like, okay, I get it. It's Batman Begins. Like, you know, like, I see what's happening, you know, like, and I wish they had just gotten to it, because once it was like, the Ancient One and all the fight with Dormammu, which also is super short, you know, like and which
I also
just
like hated the big purple face Dormammu. I wanted like the candle wick flaming head Dormammu. What is this big purple face thing?
Yo, I want that Marvel vs. Capcom Dormammu.
Exactly. That's exactly what I call him. Okay. Dormammu.
Dormammu.
That's what they call him. Always crack me up.
Dormammu. You're like, wait, what? I agree. I think that I remember seeing him and being like, I like the scene. I love the voice actor. I think that it was really cool. But it's one of those things that they just since then have been like, whatever, you know, like about that whole scene. They kind of just like threw that away, other than the time stone, you know, like, and you're just kind of like, okay. But he's a really big villain to Doctor Strange. He's like the whole Marvel universe.
He's like the guy. He's like the guy. Aside from like Mordo, he's like kind of like the Doctor Strange guy.
Right? You're like,
okay.
wait a minute.
Why do you sound like Mickey Mouse?
Hold on. Which I'll be breaking out the Mickey Mouse voice for our next review for Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Not for this one. I mean, Mickey, I think, is very happy, but he's like, that's a lot of blood. And I think that's definitely one of the strengths of this is finally a little bit of blood. But to finish up Doctor Strange 1 thoughts, wasn't overly like, wow. And I know some people are. Some people saw that and was like, that was the coolest Marvel movie, which you know, like, I can't blame you.
I mean, it felt like a different flavor at the time, but I just felt like it didn't go far enough. I love the casting, like Cumberbatch. As soon as they announced Cumberbatch as Strange, I'm like, dope.
Dope.
You put Chiwetel Ejiofor in anything, I'm like, dope.
Yep.
You put Mads Mikkelsen in anything, I'm like, dope.
Rachel McAdams.
Even if like
you're like, yes.
Even if like Caecilius isn't that interesting a villain too. That's another thing. I'm like
Mads was a waste there.
Yeah.
You're like he's such a better actor than this. Like, give him a better role.
He would be so good as Doctor Doom. I know. He would be such a good Doctor Doom.
They should just do it.
They
and
just pull the Gemma Chan thing.
Yeah,
and just
like, don't
act like she wasn't here. Just like,
don't
she
think about
already played someone Captain Marvel, but you already forgot about it.
Yeah, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I do love that when they're like, don't even think about it. You're like, wait, what?
Alfre Woodard's this one mom who like lectures Tony Stark in Civil War, but she's also in Luke Cage as Mariah Stokes. Like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about this shit.
Don't think about that too hard.
Don't think about that shit. It's a variant now. That's what we all know.
Yeah.
It's just a variant.
That's an easy excuse that we'll start using now. It's a variant. Multiverse.
Multiverse. Don't worry about it. So let's get into Multiverse of Madness. I definitely went in not with the highest hopes. I mean, I love Sam Raimi. I love Sam Raimi, and I was like, even if this has like an inkling of Evil Dead or Sam Raimi style, I'll be happy, you know?
Yeah,
and then this thing comes ripping with the
like
fucking Sam Raimi style, and I was like,
yeah,
yes!
Exactly. You were basically had the same fear I did. I was a little more optimistic, but you probably had the same fear I did. I'm like, man, like, it ain't like it was with those Spider-Man movies anymore. I don't want Sam Raimi to go through the Marvel machine and not be able to see like that Sam Raimi come through.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what I was most happy about this movie, is that I feel like in a lot of these movies, a lot of great style gets lost because you gotta listen to Kevin. If you don't fuck with Kevin, will break your fucking kneecaps, bro. If you leak some shit or if you don't listen to him, you're fucking gone. And I think that's kind of what happened to Scott Derrickson. But I think that's kind of a good thing here. Is that this feels so different.
Yeah,
that
I did
this
sort of feel
works.
bad just because Scott Derrickson is a huge Doctor Strange fan.
And he's quite the director.
I've watched Doctor Strange with commentary, and he talks about like, no, I'm not kidding. Like Doctor Strange was my guy growing up. I had a Jack Kirby poster of him on my wall. Doctor Strange is my dude.
Yeah,
and the fact that like,
and I think his visual language in the first one is impressive.
Yeah,
I think the visual language he has brought has changed the MCU in a big way.
Yeah. And they had said that, like, right off the bat, even before we knew what the subtitle for Doctor Strange 2 was.
Yeah.
They were like, it's going to lean a little more, like, weird and horror-y. And so I'm like, oh, cool. Scott Derrickson started off in horror doing stuff like Sinister. So that's like, pretty cool, be able to go back to his roots. So when he was off the project, I'm like, oh, that's kind of sad. But then not long
They're like, hey, we brought in a legend. You know,
like, but we got Sam Raimi. I'm like, oh, all right.
I'm okay with that. If you don't know, if for the uninitiated, Sam Raimi is the director of the Evil Dead series, and it's one of those things that, and of course the Spider-Man movies, but one of those things that he is kind of a film legend in a way because he made Evil Dead on very low budget, and kind of like took over this like indie horror space at the time, and was able to get enough money to do Evil Dead 2, which was really just a remake of 1 but with a better budget.
Yeah, at least the first few minutes basically just like condense / reimagine the first movie, and then they just get going.
You're just like, oh, okay.
It's so weird. Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV show, has to sort of like just say both count.
Yeah,
just because there's that weird disconnect of like, well, in the first movie, it was him, his girlfriend, and a bunch of other friends who went up to the cabin. But in Evil Dead 2's like opening, it's just him and his girlfriend. Ash vs. Evil Dead is basically just like, it's both. Fuck it.
Both. Fuck it.
Whatever.
Fuck it.
Don't think about it too hard.
He went to 2 different demon cabins.
Yeah.
You're like, don't think about it.
Don't think about it too hard. They both sort of happened.
But Sam Raimi's one of those directors that I absolutely respect, and one of those guys that has influenced what I like to do. You know, like it's kind of like Edgar Wright, Christopher Nolan for me. It's like what I do in my productions and what I do as a daily job on doing live events and stuff. I do it with like thinking about these guys all the time, you know, like, and Sam Raimi is one of those guys that I think about all the time.
You look at like a Nolan or an Edgar Wright for like that, like measured confidence and style. And then you go to someone like Sam Raimi or Danny Boyle for just like, oh yeah, there are no rules sometimes. Sometimes you could just fucking go crazy. And it's great.
You're like, okay.
And you sort of like need to reconcile those two things.
And I think that's what's great about this is that in a world where I feel like I love Sam Raimi. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to say I love him. And I do love all his movies. I've watched.
Not all.
No, well, some are rough. I think some are rough, but I like seeing them. You know,
you and I have had like conversations about Darkman.
Yes, yeah.
I like Darkman, but it's fucking silly.
I do not. But
Drag Me to Hell is meh.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. In a world where we got Drag Me to Hell, which should have been like his big return to horror. It should have been this like Sam Raimi is back, baby, and he's doing something weird in horror. It was kind of a teenage horror movie, you know, like which wasn't, and you could it. In a world where I just thought maybe Sam Raimi had lost this touch, you know, like where they were, I was kind of like, oh no, he's not as confident as he was when he was making, you know, all these other movies.
Yeah,
you know?
and then like the next movie he made after that was Oz the Great and Powerful.
Right.
Which isn't terrible. It's fine, but it's odd.
Yes. I think it's one of those things where he was
and that
like,
one really
I'm not
feels
going
like
to do, he was off films that's 9 years from Oz the Great and Powerful, I think. Yeah, I think so.
It's been a bit. We saw that like it came out when we were in college.
Yeah,
and as we just reminded ourselves, that was 10 years ago.
But it is one of those things that you were scared that he had lost this chutzpah that he had before. This, like, you know, it can happen to artists where they have too many films that aren't hits and they kind of lose this confidence that they had before.
He had kind of pivoted to TV for the most part. Like, even as early as like the Army of Darkness days, he was a producer for like Xena, which is basically why you have Lucy Lawless and Ash vs. Evil Dead, because they already know each other from that. And he also directed the pilot for Ash vs. Evil Dead and was a producer on that throughout its run. So it was just one of those things. Like he had kind of like pushed back to like more behind the scenes stuff for a little bit, not at the forefront. And he's spoken before about how, like, the way Spider-Man 3 was received, like, really got to him.
Now, I know, and it's really sad because it's one of those things that even Spider-Man 3 has his style, and it's just like, but
I get, like,
it's a mess.
It's just one of those things where, like, I feel like it's something to measure.
Yeah.
Like, guys, we need to, I know, in the moment, it sucks when you get a really bad movie, but we need to stop taking it personally.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, guys, I think about the stories of, like, how that kind of put him in a spiral, or I think about, like, how weird and aggressive and honestly homophobic we were to Joel Schumacher post his Batman movies.
Absolutely. And I think it happens to a lot of artists where they get kind of pounced on afterward, and like they kind of lose this confidence. And I think the same has happened to Tim Burton. You know, I think Planet of the Apes made him question if he was it. You know, and what he was doing, you know, like, and I don't know if he's fully back yet, you know, like it's one of those things that, but I think here to me, like, Sam Raimi going back and being Sam Raimi. I think that's to get off this like sad tone here. This movie feels like Sam Raimi's back, baby.
This feels more like a Sam Raimi movie than probably his Spider-Man movies did, only because it's allowed to be like horror stuff.
Yes. So I will say right here, the reason why I like this movie a lot is it's finally a Marvel horror story. Yeah. You know, like it is a straight up just horror movie, you know, like unquestionably. So it kind of starts off with even like the kind of like everyone's fine, everything's okay, and then it's like nope, and really like go. I love that it kind of like goes in a very classic horror route in this, and I enjoy that, you know, like this is a very interesting movie. I can see why people are upset because they introduce a lot of cool things just for Sam Raimi to be like, you thought, like, and then just maniacally laugh forever, you know, like, and I think that that's a huge part of this is that Sam Raimi's going for the fences with this swing, and some people will not like that he fucking gets a home run here, even just because they don't get the characters they want because he uses them as fodder.
We'll talk about that.
We'll not talk spoilers yet, but we'll
just gonna say to like get into like early plot stuff. So, you know, Doctor Strange, not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore because of the blip.
Yep.
And
which I like.
Yeah, I'm down for that too.
I was thinking about that. I like Wong being in a position of power.
Yeah, that was one of the things they were especially afraid of when they were doing the first movies. That the big ones were like, okay, the Ancient One is kind of a big Fu Manchu stereotype.
Yeah.
And then Wong is like this Asian, like subservient person to him.
You're
so you're like we gotta fix those two things.
We gotta change that.
Yeah.
I like it, first off, because Wong's a great character. They also are false playing you this entire time by being like, Wong's gonna die. I think that's it's not really a spoiler, but like it kind of is that like
they're trying to like
they are
ya.
Definitely like playing in this movie with being like, do we kill Wong, you know, like because we could kill Wong and it would be dramatic and you'd have this like this moment, but also they do a great job of that makes Wong a great character because you don't really know if he's gonna survive, you know, like Benedict Cumberbatch is gonna fucking survive. So, but like you're like they might kill Wong.
So
like,
continuing the thing from the first movie, where I guess Doctor Strange is like one of the few lead characters who just doesn't get to fuck.
Yeah, right. Everyone else gets to fuck. Not Doctor Strange.
So
that would
Christine from the last movie, I guess, wasn't blipped or wasn't snapped out of existence. So she just moved on with her life, and now she's getting married.
Yep.
So Strange is just like, well, that sucks. But, you know, as long as she's happy, I'm happy. I guess. Am I happy?
Am I happy? I do. Okay, so that's a huge part of this movie is they keep asking Doctor Strange if he's happy. At first, I was like, is this cheesy? And then I was like, no, they're actually trying to like say something, you know, like and I really enjoyed that they actually went for that narrative, you know, of like, even these are superheroes, but they're not exactly happy even if everything's working, you know, like the world's not fully falling apart, you know, like, and I like that because that's something that the comics deal with sometimes, you know, like is being like, hey, these guys actually happy in what they do all the time, or is it just destroy their lives? You know, like, and you're just like.
But anyway, no time to ponder about that. We got to fight. Legally speaking, we can't say Shuma-Gorath, so we just refer to him as Gargantos from here out.
Yeah, you're like,
because Shuma-Gorath is actually a Lovecraftian beast.
Yeah, you're like, wait, we
that
can't
they
use
no
that?
longer have the rights to use the name for. So you're like, but it's Shuma-Gorath.
You've seen it in the trailer, the giant one-eyed tentacle monster that he fights. It's a pretty good fight. Yeah. I would say that scene though has the weakest CGI in the whole movie.
I would say so too, yeah.
It's one of those things that I think a lot of the CGI is quite good in this movie. It looks great most of the time. I even love the CGI scary Scarlet Witch they do several times.
Yeah.
I was like, sick. But that scene, though, has some really bad green screen, and it just, it feels, first off, it almost seems like Sam Raimi's like, I can do Spider-Man 2 still, don't worry. You know, like that's what that scene kind of reminded me of was like, don't worry, we can still climb up a wall and do a whole like climbing up a building scene. Don't fucking worry. And then the rest of it's going to go back to Evil Dead. We're good. Or, you know, straight up horror. You're like, oh, all right, let's go with that. But it felt like that. It felt like a, it's okay. It's still the director.
And it's very superhero-y.
Yeah.
I've already seen a bunch of memes where I'm just like, is that suit up sequence where he just spins with the cape and jumps off the deck? Everyone's like, is that the suit up sequence with the most drip?
Yes, I will say it is. It's like, yeah, since Tony's, you know, blasting all the things onto him scene, that's obviously the most drip because and it's so anime too. It's so just like, and he just like is out the window and you're like, all right, okay, like that's what we're doing. But it also gets this thing where he's different than, because like I said, it's very Batman Begins, the last movie.
Yeah,
this one's already like, yeah, Bruce Wayne, but with magic, you know, like, and you're like, I'm okay.
Let's just fucking go for it. Let's
okay
fight a
with
squid.
This.
Let's meet America Chavez.
Yes. Also, I love that he used a Bayonetta move to finish off that guy, by the way. That he breaks out the demon hands to pick up a spear, light pole for a spear and hucks it into the eye. I was like, they stole that from Bayonetta. I was like, what the hell? But it's such a great scene to me because it lets you know, which you already kind of knew this was going to be violent from the scene with American Chavez earlier.
But when you see it go through that eye, you're just like, oh, this is going to be violent.
Oh, this is going to be violent. Like, and then they're just holding the eye on screen for a bit. And I was like, oh, so there's going to be a lot of kids who are just screaming during this.
It gives you the indication that
just,
one, this is going to be violent, and two, we're going to get a lot bigger variety of spells this time.
Yes, a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so somebody like is changing shit up, and I think that's when I knew the movie was different. At first, I was like going in being like, okay, this has been sort of the same so far. But then the moment that I stayed on screen for a little too long, I was like, are we getting a horror movie here? And then the rest of the movie is just like, yes, you are. And you're like, oh, okay.
So I do want to bring up America Chavez again, because I feel like that's a character that I never had too much exposure with.
I definitely like the character.
She definitely
I've always liked the character.
Yeah, she definitely debuted around the time we were in college.
She's very America Chavez. I always pointed to, of course, her DC counterparts. You know, like because the thing is, America Chavez to me is just Marvel doing a DC Crisis on Infinite Earths. I know that I'm being a DC head by saying that, but obviously that's what they're kind of doing. The pariah,
the whole like gimmick,
what's
the monitors,
the monitors,
stuff like that.
But who's the one in New 52? Who's the girl?
Pandora.
Yeah. So they're doing Pariah, Pandora, and those women trying to escape the multiverse.
Didn't they also change Vibe too? That he has like interdimensional powers.
Vibe, a little bit Vibe too, especially with the punching. It feels very Vibe.
She does in a lot of ways feel like more of a DC character.
Yeah.
In the same way that I've always argued Static Shock feels more like a Marvel character in DC.
Especially because they do have like an origin scene, but they're kind of just like, she's doing it. She's punching through dimensions. Who gives a shit? You know, and you're like, cool, let's go. You know, like I definitely enjoyed that they were just kind of they just went for her power, and especially went for the really comic booky look of layered dimensions. I really like that, where she would punch and it wouldn't just be one star, it would be like through multiple stars, and it was big, and it was always like reminiscent of big panels, you know, like that's what I think is great here. Sam Raimi's an old comic book fan, so he knows that, like, you know, you got to hit that spread, you got to do that, like that comic book spread, not just in the end scenes, but in pretty much every fucking scene, you know, like, and end every scene with a fucking splash, you know, like, and he knows that, and he does it often.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where, like, you could see it as a comic book art. I'm like, this is where the splash page would be. This is where this issue would end to lead into the next one.
Exactly. Yeah. That was something I really liked here. Sure, we're not exactly doing any comic specifically, but this felt, because yes, we're doing a little bit of House of M, a little bit of Vision and Wanda, a little bit of No More Mutants, a little bit of a lot of things.
Yeah,
a lot of Doctor Strange stories.
We're pulling a little bit from the Oath, like just like certain elements, more so than specific story beats.
And I forget what was the event that American Chavez was introduced in. I forget. Which
I don't remember.
I don't remember the event name.
She was one of those characters that, like, it was like sort of part of like the movement. It's just like, here's our sort of like new generation of more diverse heroes. So like we sort of got like Miles Morales, we got the new Miss Marvel, we got America Chavez sort of around the same time.
Yes. Which I'm totally for. Yeah. I want this
again, the
diverse cast. And I did like that she just came from like a sensible fucking planet. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that sounds nice. Why'd you have to leave that universe? I was like, oh, that sounds good.
Can I get there?
It does. It definitely feels very flag waving for Disney. It feels very like, hey, look, we're not being hateful. And you're like,
virtue signaling.
Yeah, the virtue signaling. That's it. I'm saying wag flame, but virtue signaling is basically what it is, because it doesn't add too much to the story of the character, but you kind of get the type of person she's going to be from it, so it works. I just think it's one of those things where you're like, they never know how to work somebody's gayness into a fucking movie. You know,
she's got two moms. Look, she's got two moms. Just like, two moms that are immediately like yeeted immediately afterwards.
And I'm sure they're going to do something with her own movie, maybe where she finds her parents or something. But I kind of was surprised they didn't do that at the end.
I'm not entirely sure she could hold her own movie. No. I do like the actress.
I think she could do a Disney Plus show. Though.
Yeah, I think like a nice mini series or something would probably work better. Yeah,
but I think it's funny because obviously she would fit in more with the Spider-Man movie. You know, like I was sort of like looking at her being like, this is so strange because like she's great for this story, but she seems like she should have been in Spider-Man.
Yeah, it feels like that type of like a teen character like would be like the one to like team up with.
It also seems like Doctor Strange has a fucking problem with teenagers. He just keeps being like, oh, it's okay, I'll save them. Don't worry about it. And you're like, that's cool, but you've now fucked up the multiverse twice because of teenagers. You know.
I also do love that like Doctor Strange in the MCU is like the one character is just like, I mean, I can tolerate kids, but sometimes.
Sometimes.
Because that's very much just like, oh, that me, though.
That me, though. That's so funny. I think that it's actually kind of funny because before it was Tony who everyone came to for help, you know, and now we have Doctor Strange who's like, the MCU is like, so can you fix everything?
Which is fitting because there's a lot of parallels, like personality-wise and origin-wise, between Tony and between Tony and Steven. And the fact that they even like kind of play off that in Infinity War when they first meet, that of course they don't get along.
Yeah, right.
Because conceptually, especially in the early comics, they were basically the same character.
It's true. I also forever love the line, "Don't embarrass me in front of the wizards."
Yeah.
That's why that's great. But to get back to it, I think that you're kind of set up being like, okay, so they're gonna be jumping through multiverses, running from some evil, and then I think this is one of the best moments in the whole movie, just like how early they're like, nope, Scarlet Witch is pissed. She's the one who's been doing this. And she's going to fuck you guys up. And instead of being like, let's spend half an hour trying to find out who is attacking us, which they definitely could have, and I was assuming was about to happen, they were like, nope. And I was like,
that was something that, like, coming out of it, I almost thought was just like, maybe they went too fast with that. And the more I've let it sit, I was just like, no, I'm kind of glad that they just kind of went for it.
Yes.
And going into it,
and
only
it makes
watching
you be like, oh, because you kind of, even though you've seen WandaVision, you kind of know she's dangerous, but you've always been like, oh, but she's a good person. Especially at the end of WandaVision, it's very like, she's a good person. And here it's like, nah.
They did exactly what I wanted. I said at the end of WandaVision, I don't care if it would have been sadder. Wanda should have gone full villain at the end.
Yeah.
And I stand by that. I guess they just saved it for this instead.
They definitely did.
So I'm just like, okay, you just gave me what I wanted back then.
And I'm totally for it. I'm almost...
And I didn't go into this expecting Scarlet Witch to be the primary antagonist.
No.
Especially
Sorry, I guess we're getting into spoiler category, guys. So if you weren't gone already, spoiler-wise, we're talking spoilers. Sorry about that. And now we're doing spoilers and forward. Sorry. Yeah. Going on.
We just put spoilers ahead like when we do the post.
Right. We're just like, hey, spoiler ahead.
Plus, it's been a couple weeks now. We're a little late to the party on this one.
A little late.
But yeah, like, okay, just her going full villain is exactly what I wanted right off the bat. And someone who only watched the first couple of trailers, because I watched like the teaser and like the official trailer, maybe the second one, and then that's it. I don't need your final trailers. I don't need your million fucking TV spots.
I didn't want it to reveal too much.
That's my thing.
You're like, all right. I didn't want to see too much of it. I wanted to actually go see it in theaters.
It was definitely a hint of just like Wanda's definitely going to turn in this. Yeah. Because you have that moment in like the first official trailer where it's just like, oh, you break the rules and become a hero. I do and become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair. I'm like, oh, there goes the turn. Yeah. But I thought we were going to do that later.
I love that they do it right off the bat.
Just fucking immediately.
It's what I think makes it feel even more like a Sam Raimi, like Evil Dead. And I hate to keep being like Evil Dead because it's, I think that this is an evolution. You know, like these are step forwards. This is different than Evil Dead.
Yeah.
It's not Evil Dead remake, but this is different and it fits the MCU, but it's still Sam Raimi. So very Sam Raimi of him to be like, oh, you thought we were just going to meander around for the plot? No, it's here, bitch. You know, like, and just go. Because I think that's the moment that, like, once we started to do that, the movie just was like, for pretty much the rest of the movie, you know? Elizabeth I think Olsen. It has some, I think, I will say that to the critics. There is some pacing issues with this movie.
Yeah.
But it does really amp once she's revealed as villain and we do the the attack on Carmitage.
Yeah.
And I think that's the moment when the movie really fucking takes off. And but before that is where like I was like, pacing wise, I don't know what we're doing. But then once we did that, it was like, like
yep.
And you're like, okay.
Very nice. Elizabeth Olsen is so good just playing full-on villain Scarlet Witch. It's just one of those things where like, why did we make this so hard? Because she's got her costume again, and it's actually slightly different from the one that we got at the end of WandaVision. But it's just one of those things where like, why did we make this so hard? Why did we think the Scarlet Witch costume was so difficult?
Right? It just looks so good, and you're just like, why did we hold back on
As opposed to her just wearing normal-ass clothes in Age of Ultron to like, okay, now we're going to give her a coat.
Now
we're going to give her a corset and a long coat. We did it. It's like, no, just give her fucking costume already.
I definitely enjoy that about this is that they go full on comic book costume for a lot of the characters here.
We got a couple different ones for Strange.
Yeah.
I like that.
4 different Stranges.
Yeah.
4 different
I love
Stranges.
that we open on like what they call Defender Strange, where he's got like the ponytail and stuff and he doesn't have a cape. I'm like, dope. All these different Stranges.
They got, I think they categorize them as Defender Strange, Supreme Strange, and are Strange, so 813 Strange.
616.
616, sorry, and then they're 813 Strange. Or 833
I saw some fans a little irritated with that they referred to the MCU like
as
universe
as 616. You're like, no, it's
because,
not.
Because
the comics are.
Yeah, because as far as the fans are concerned, MCU already has its designation. I think it's like 1999.
Yes, it is. It's 19999.
And they're just like, yeah, but guys, these are adaptations.
Yeah, right? You're just like,
these are adaptations of those books. Like, I'm not too upset or surprised.
Like that one universe is right about the numbering of the other universes. That's really it, is that they don't know what they don't know. So it's like, sure, they're calling that 616, but like...
But I'm also of the opinion that, like, I don't necessarily consider the MCU a different universe within the comic book multiverse. I consider them adaptations.
I mean, I think if you're gonna be like sticklers about it, you can be like, yeah, it's a different timeline in the thing, but obviously it's just an adaptation.
It's adaptation.
That's what this is. Yeah, adaptation first. I mean, yes, if you need to in your head tell yourself that it is a separate universe, that's totally fine.
Sure.
And that's what the comics refer to it as. So you can totally do that. That's totally fine. I'm not saying you don't have to, but you should probably think of it as an adaptation before a literal like Bible book of what a universe is, you know, like you're like, sure. But you know, sure, whatever you got to do. But they pretty much, they start the fight at Carmitage, and they basically, like I said, they kind of tear apart all three of Doctor Strange's spells. They do the whispering in the ear from Age of Ultron, which she does, which I always liked.
I'm glad, like, that was one of the things I was sort of mad that they like toned down after Age of Ultron, is that when Scarlet Witch is in Age of Ultron, especially when she's immediately introduced, they're like doing like this horror movie shit.
Yeah.
Where she's like walking faster, everyone, you see all the doors closed, and like whispering in the ear. Like, they lean on horror in her scenes. And then post Age of Ultron, they kind of like moved away from
like,
that.
no, it's fine. She's a good guy.
She's got vague red powers.
And I really enjoy that here. It's just like, nope. You know, like a big nope. We're going back to like full powered Wanda, you know? So she's able to talk to whisper in people's ear and change their minds in this scene. They throw her into the mirror dimension, and she immediately and he shatters it to try to keep her in there. And of course that just makes it worse, and she is able to escape almost immediately and do this terrifying scene, which I loved. It was one of those scenes that I was like, oh, this is an Evil Dead movie. When I saw was when them being like, cover up all the reflections, and just start covering everything. And the minute American looked down at the puddle and saw her, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And then she like comes out like fucking.
They even do this. They even do the same gag from Evil Dead 2, where like reaches into a mirror and it turns out to be water.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh.
And the way she like crawls out.
Oh. Like Pennywise, like straight up Pennywising out of there. I loved it. That's the part that I'm talking about, the good CGI Wanda, you know, where you're just like, okay, that's definitely CGI, but damn, you know, like that's cool as shit. Because it's like, it's on screen horror effects, which I think work better than not showing something, you know, like it's cool when Pennywise unfolds himself, and it's awesome here when she does it. It's so sick. And then she's just immediately tearing that room apart, you know, like, and tearing them apart, just knocks out Wong and takes out Strange almost immediately, and just takes American, and you're like, oh shit. Like, you're like, oh, okay, we lost. Like we have lost. Like,
how many minutes are left in this?
Yeah, you're like, damn. And then that's what I'm talking about, like the splash panel scenes, is that like America opens up America opens up the portals, and it's like it's so sick, her being like dragged in as they're like you know, at the end of this fight, you know, like, and that felt really comic booky, you know, like, oh no, we've lost to the major villain and now we somehow escape. and you know, like, but then
we go through
right back.
and we go through our obligatory like, oh, time to travel through different realities, and like things are gonna get weird and discombobulated. We've done that a million times, but it's always cool.
But I actually kind of thought it was the thoughtfulness of being like, red means go, you know, like, which I know they've done in another movie. It's a reference to another movie, I believe.
I was just talking about the sequence where they're like going through different realities and like they become animated in one. And
was I painting one of those?
They start to like
they say?
Split apart in the other.
I did like that, and they definitely show off 2099 in Noir universe there.
I did see that,
which I was like, don't tease me, baby. Like, seriously, don't tease me. I need that shit. Just give me a Disney Plus show, which is just all the noir stories as 20-minute episodes.
Noir.
I will shit and come at the same time. I'm sorry to say that, but it would be fucking awesome. You know,
there are three things we want. We want noir. We want 2099. We want 1608.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what we want.
Come on.
These are our demands.
These are our demands. Which we're in a world where this all can happen. I feel like that's the other thing about Multiverse of Madness. It feels like instead of this feeling like a commodity thing, which is what Far From Home feels like, where it's just like, oh, we're gonna bring all our commodities together, and we're gonna
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Sorry. From No Way Home is that it's like, it feels like, okay, we brought all the Spider-Man together. This is like a huge property now. Here it's like, these are characters you've never met before. Here's multiple versions of those characters, you know, like the multiple Stranges here, you know, like we haven't met those before. So this feels like using the multiverse in a useful way instead of just a money way, you know, like, which is why I really dug what was going on here. Other than, of course, the Illuminati scene, which feels very like, oh, here's the money, you know, like, here's the fucking money, everybody. Like, here's where the money budget went.
I suppose we're already sort of talking about the other Earth stuff, so I guess we could go into the Illuminati at this point.
So, just to kind of keep the plot going, because we've been going through the plot, we learn about dream walking, which is done with the Darkhold, and they can basically go into another universe. And they established in this movie, which I thought was quite interesting, and it's set for the MCU now, is that any dream is another reality that you're just not experiencing.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a unique.
No, it's not. It's not.
Concept.
But it's interesting.
In fact, I'm sort of playing with something similar in my book.
Shit.
So when they did, I'm like, son of a bitch. Everyone's gonna think I ripped off Sam Raimi.
But I really, I thought that was interesting, because that kind of implies that the Ultron dreams in Age of Ultron were just another universe where they lost, you know, instead of just being like weird flashy backs. So that's another universe.
Yeah, although that dream state was like something that Wanda had done to him, so
maybe
that doesn't count.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
that's more like her influencing like Tony's mind.
No, but I'm also talking about when Thor goes into the cave and sees the visions of losing to
That
Thanos.
is true.
So that's what I was thinking of. Sorry if I was, because
that's
so
also
many
more
dream
like
sequences.
There's also another that's also another thing where like it's like magical in origin.
Yeah,
so
like
you're like,
so wait,
as opposed to like just going to sleep and like dreaming about things that you're unaware of.
It's interesting. It definitely like makes you go, wait, should we look at dream sequences again in the MCU, like as different universes? Like, what? Hold on. Wait
a minute. I get laid way more often in my dreams. What?
You're being like, cheated. God damn, that son of a bitch. I'm going to that universe. I'm dream walking to that motherfucker. Sorry. But
find the Chad version of me and beat the shit out of him. Take his place.
I like this concept, and of course the dream walking thing is really cool, because it also shows how much more powerful this Scarlet Witch is than compared to like a Wanda just normally powered, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is like Scarlet Witch maxed.
Up until this point, she's basically just been Jean Grey from the X-Men as far as like her power set is concerned, and like it's more like psychokinetic stuff that's sort of disguised as magic more than actually magic. And then post WandaVision, they're just like, no, we're actually going to lean into some magic.
Yeah,
shit.
thank God they finally did it in this movie. I feel like where Wanda actually affects reality, where she actually changes things around her.
Yeah.
And of course they set that up in WandaVision that like it's fake, it's real, it's fake. You know, like, and you're just like, oh wait.
I mean, to be fair, the trouble is that like even in the comics, Wanda's power set explanation is always constantly changing.
Just like whatever.
Sometimes it's like, oh, it's just dark magic, whatever. At one point, it was like she affects probability. So
Yes.
you're like, okay,
all right. They're like that doesn't exactly
like it's
explain
just
it.
it's just all over the place. It's like, what exactly are her
But
powers?
here they say she's changing reality to what she wants it to be, which is what they set up in WandaVision, that she's changing reality to what she wants it to be.
Which is
so
already which is loose
set.
enough that you can do crazy stuff with.
Right. So I really enjoy that they kind of let her do that when she's dreamwalking. Because so they go to the other universe. Steven gets picked up almost immediately in this futuristic, which I really like that it's a universe where Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic live there, and it's a utopia. You know, like and you're just like you're like, yeah, of course the two smartest men aren't in the MCU and it's a fucking mess, but they're in this other universe and they make it a utopia. And you're like, yeah, okay.
Hey, you're forgetting the most important character that we established in the multiverse, Pizza Papa.
Pizza Papa. I do love the Bruce Campbell a little bit. I think that's so funny.
I'm so glad I went to the Coolidge to see this, because you know the Coolidge. If you go
It
to the
was
Coolidge,
like, Bruce
it's
Campbell!
it's a bunch of Colt fans. Bruce Campbell got the biggest cheer out of anything that actually happened in this movie. I'm like, I came with the right fucking crowd.
It was really funny because, of course, they're making a reference to the Evil Dead movies with him punching himself with Doctor Strange magic, and he's just so damn funny in the role that you're just like, it felt very Spider-Man, but also being a reference to his roles in Evil Dead.
Yeah,
you're like, I love this.
And
he's still so good at hurting himself. How is he still so good at hurting himself?
You haven't watched Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah,
he's very good at it still.
Yeah, he's still so good at it. Like I definitely want to watch it.
I could let you borrow my Blu-rays. I have it all.
Nice. Is it? Wait, it's on HBO.
Stars.
That's
so like, I doubt you're gonna get a Stars subscription, so I'll just let you borrow mine.
I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
And, all the time, if I'm not getting Apple Plus, I'm not getting Stars. You know, like I'm just like, no, please. I have too many streaming services.
So he definitely already had like the practice in. It does make me mad at like. You can find this if you look it up, like original concepts and plans for Spider-Man 4 back when Sam Raimi was still going to do it. Like the idea is that they were going to reveal that Bruce Campbell's character that we've seen throughout the movies in cameos were all the same person. It was Mysterio.
Yeah, you're like,
oh, that would have been so cool. Oh,
that would have been great. I would have loved Bruce Campbell as Mysterio. That would have been awesome. I think it's such a treat to have him there, and in such a long scene, and then the end credit scene when he like breaks the fourth wall is awesome. You're just like,
those pizza balls look kind of nice.
They do kind of look nice. I was like, that looks pretty good.
It kind of reminded me. It kind of was a little stupid and novelty though. It kind of reminded me of like, I forget which Steve Martin movie it is. But
yes,
like, the
pizza in a cup.
Pizza in a cup. Yeah.
I drove the other pizza in the cup guy out of business.
Yeah.
Like, is that the jerk or is
I
that?
don't know if it's the jerk or if it's something else.
It's something else. But it's so funny. I love that. I love that joke. I always, me and my dad do that. Sometimes we're like, pizza in a cup. Anyways, I really love the bringing up of Illuminati because first off, it's been one of those things that it's a hard group to breach in the MCU, but is very much a thing in the comics.
Yeah.
You know, like where it's just like, no, we've been around the block. We've fought many different like evil villains, and we need a society that makes the hard decisions, you know, like we need a group, and they kind of haven't formed that in the MCU.
Yeah,
you know, like
I'm glad a version of Mordo is here, but we still get to keep like the Mordo that we have in the other universe, maybe.
Yeah,
because apparently one of the plans is that they were maybe gonna kill that Mordo off, like have Scarlet Witch kill him.
Yeah,
and I'm like, good, because one, I love Chiwetel Ejiofor, and I want him to be in anything. And if you've ever seen stuff like Serenity, you know how good he is at playing a villain.
Yep.
And I just want to see like Mordo actually become like Strange's arch nemesis like he is in the comics. I'm like, okay, we're not doing that yet, but you'll get a Mordo here. We'll still keep that in our pocket for later.
Right. We'll still keep this.
Yeah.
I kind of love this because it is straight up a horror scene. They hold Strange. They bring him up to the oh my god, the Illuminati, and they are like, oh, we hear some noises. Let's go check on it. And they all
before we get to the horror scene, why don't we talk about each of the individual like members and stuff?
Yes. Okay. So you have
like that version of Mordo.
You have that version of Mordo. You have Captain Carter here, which is such a like, it's a little left field because it makes you feel like, wait, so has Captain Carter jumped another universe? Is this...
Apparently, it's just a different Captain Carter.
Yes, than the one we saw in What If and the one that's traveled and fought in What If.
Is a thing that bothers me because apparently, like, the Captain Carter that we see here and the evil Doctor Strange we hear are not the two ones that we saw in What If.
Yes, which is very... To me, you're like, it seems like such a close tie-in. Yeah. Like, so close.
Especially with Doctor Strange because the... aesthetic of that universe is exactly the way that Strange that we met in What If left it. Like the whole like everything's disintegrating and sort of turning into like ink like material. Just like it's the exact same look.
Yeah, right. And the only thing you just didn't do is all the demons coming out of him, you know, and you're just kind of like...
And I get that, like, to be fair, like, the where we left What If Strange, like, he was, like, guarding that one pocket universe with, like...
So it's
Killmonger
possibly
and stuff like
a
that.
different one.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just like, okay, I guess.
But it also seems like sort of, were you guys just afraid to tie this into What If just because it's like the spin-off animated show?
And you're like, it's a cartoon, we can't tie it in with a cartoon.
But you still want to cherry pick the stuff that you want though, like Captain Carter, but not make it that Captain Carter.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely weird. And I do like actually seeing live action Captain Carter though, because it's cool to have her voiced in the thing, and I thought that was gonna be it, but to actually get like full on
Haley Atwell
like
in the suit and everything. I like your jetpack.
Oh my god, I love it.
Like Rocketeer style shit.
I love it. That's where I was like, okay, so it is a different one if she's got either that or she's gone to another universe. You know, is what I was thinking. But obviously it's a different one.
Then we also get Black Bolt, played by Anson Mount, who played him in the Inhuman show that no one
you're
likes.
like, oh, so...
But he's actually...
very Kevin here. That was definitely Kevin being like, you guys hated my show, but it's still Black
Well, he had
Bolt.
nothing to do with those TV shows.
No?
That's the thing.
Because he was the big Inhuman guy. He was big, like, we don't need mutants. We could just
Back when
Inhumans.
it was still going to be a movie. Because remember, originally it was supposed to be a Phase 3 movie.
And then he was
then
like,
he lost it to like Marvel TV and it became its own thing.
And then he was
like,
I'll
here
do
it's just like... So here, we get it. She's like, definitely not the same one, because he's actually comic book accurate. And he's actually in the stupid Black Bolt costume, and I love it. Yeah. That costume is so dumb and so comic booky.
With the fork.
And they just, with the tuning fork and the little wings under his arms.
I love that he broke out the wings, dude. When he came flying in for that scene and he had the wings, I was like, I am erect.
They just,
I was like, oh, damn.
They just went for it, and I loved it, and it looked great. Just do it. Just embrace it.
And then also we have
a version of Captain Marvel.
Which
is Maria Rambeau.
Which we know, which is kind of funny because this is where the production and COVID kind of plays funny games here. Because we were kind of supposed to have this Miss Marvel movie before this, or the Miss Marvel show before this. So it's like one of those things where you almost... this was supposed to be like a nice tie into those things, but now it's a progenitor to her being Miss Marvel, you know, which is like, okay, it's our first time seeing her as Miss Marvel, and we'll probably go through the whole Miss Marvel show before she does it. But it is still a different character because Maria Rambeau is Monica Rambeau's mother. That's like the fellow like co-pilot, right? You're like, wait.
So you're like, okay, I guess it's basically an easy like, what if Maria got into the accident with the ship and got the powers instead of Carol? So it's a pretty easy like transition.
Very like. Chip.
So beyond that, we get.
The big surprise.
Well, first the
first big surprise, and they know it too. They like fucking bring it over, and you're like, is that Jim from The Office? You're just like, damn.
Yeah, he has a name, Frank.
Yes, I know. It's
John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, which like, I almost facepalmed, but not like in a bad way. Like, oh my god, the bastards actually did it.
Fucking
because
did it.
If you're not in the know, John Krasinski has been like the fan casting for Mr. Fantastic for years. You can find fan art of that everywhere.
And when I saw the spoiler image on YouTube of him in it, I thought it was fake. I looked at it and was like, that fake. I was like, before I saw the movie, and then I saw the movie and I was like, it real.
It real. They actually did it.
Them crazy motherfuckers.
So between this and like the Watcher joke in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because there was that fan theory of like, what if all of Stan Lee's characters, what if he's actually the Watcher? So they sort of confirmed that, like he works with the Watchers.
Yeah, right. You're like, wait.
So you're just like, never say that they don't listen to what the fans are like. Whoa. So that was cool, and he looks great. He looks
perfect, and he sounds perfect.
He looks just like Mr. Fantastic has these past few years with like the beard and everything.
To me, it's perfect. To me, I know that I'm a big Office guy, and I love John Krasinski, but to me, that was like, oh my god, that's like, I've seen so many Fantastic Four movies now, 3 terrible ones. This was the first time I was like, that's Mr. Fantastic.
And in all fairness, the Tim Story movies are stupid, but aside from Jessica Alba, they weren't casted all that bad.
No.
Like, I like Mr. Fantastic. I like Michael Chiklis as the Thing.
Yeah.
I like Chris Evans as Human Torch. I don't like Jessica Alba as the Invisible Girl, but...
Love Jessica Alba.
3 out of 4 ain't bad.
3 out of... I think he was fine in the role. I think he was fine, but this made me go... That's Mr. Fantastic, you know? Like, instead of somebody playing him on TV, he just was him, you know? Like, this very serious, like, calculative guy. I do kind of I like his death here. I do like the next horror scene where they pull him apart like a string cheese, but it makes you go, wait, that was the world's smartest man, and he didn't think that running up to a fucking witch that just killed 100 fucking people was kind of bold, you know, with no backup plan at all. Like, that was the thing that made me go, and I think that's what pissed people off, is you get this, like, really cool Mr. Fantastic, and then they kill him.
Or just the Illuminati in general, they're all, like, axed. But the other big reveal... which was huge, I feel like, which we knew was coming because we've seen the trailers, but it was... How good it looked was made me shit bricks. So Patrick Stewart as Professor X in a much more comic booky looking suit, where he's got like the greenish suit and he's got his stupid yellow like hover chair thing.
Straight up, and it's not even the I would say it's not even the Xavier from Days of Future Past or something. It's straight up animated series.
To the point where
Stewart,
when he makes his entrance, they play a rendition of the cartoon theme, and I got fucking erect.
I want to say that right now is that one of the reasons why I said, like, this is cinema to Deshaun is, and one of the reasons why I will stand by that statement, is this is one of Danny Elfman's best superhero soundtracks. This is pretty fucking wild, guys.
Yeah, it's really good, which is good because
it's all
I felt
over
like
the place. It's crazy. It's fun.
Which is good because I love Danny Elfman, but for a long time he's been kind of spinning his wheels. He hasn't had like that same magic for a while.
And I think Age of Ultron is kind of very by the numbers.
Yeah, and I think that same thing with Justice League, but those were both instances where he was kind of a last minute replacement.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, okay, here's superhero stuff, but I feel like Sam Raimi and him work together on this to make the music cues, and music cues work well, you know, like, and it really shows.
I'm glad they get along now, because they sort of had a falling out after Spider-Man 2, which is why Danny Elfman didn't do the score for Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
But then they worked together on Oz, and now I guess they're just buddy
Yeah,
again.
they're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I definitely think that this is a great soundtrack that surprised me constantly and added a ton to this. Especially, you know, things like that where all of a sudden you're like, that's the animated series theme. I also I was in a very empty theater when I saw this with like two other couples, but I screamed when he started to do the mind, and it went out like the animated series.
With like the pulses.
I screamed.
The rings.
I screamed. I was like, oh! I was like, it was. That was one of the best parts of the movie for me. I was like, oh hell yes. The best parts of this movie was absolutely the next scene where the Illuminati just gets torn the fuck apart.
Yeah.
I Love that scene.
I get the
love it, and I know that pisses off people, but I love that scene.
Yeah, so do I.
I know we're sick fucks. I know you guys are thinking you guys are sick fucks, but
if you're watching
look at this shirt, look at this
I'm wearing
shirt.
a Tom Savini shirt. I love this shit.
We love horror movies, and for them to actually do a horror movie, to straight up be like, we're gonna kill heroes on screen at an alarming horror movie pace that will make you be like, oh fuck. I love that.
I think my only issue with it is I think they kind of peak with the kills a little early because nothing to me got me as like, ooh, as Black Bolt's death.
I know. I mean, yes.
After that, I'm just like, okay, you turn Mr. Fantastic into string cheese.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like, oh, you snapped Xavier's
I
neck.
thought it was funny how many Captain America types get chopped in half with their own shield. You're like.
Also, Marvel's death was kind of lame. Just like. I know
they dropped a statue
unless
on her.
This version of Captain Marvel is severely nerfed, that would not kill her.
Would not work. Yeah, exactly. I was kind of like, that one was kind of like, but other than that, I really like that scene because it is just ruthless. You know, like it's straight up just like Wanda not giving a shit about this universe.
All the costumes for the Illuminati, just in general across the board, look really good too.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Fantastic's was nice. I am a little sick of like the typical MCU. It's just like, well, let's take the costume, but let's put a bunch of like shit on it. So he's got like a bunch of like black stuff to make it look almost like armor. Like, I mean, you don't need that.
Yeah, like, all right.
Like dial that back a little bit. So the interesting thing about the Illuminati is because they kill them off. In some ways, I think it's good and bad. So this is like the first real.
So
push to
I
be
know
like,
what I think. What you're gonna say is that like I know people are angry because they think this is the only time they're going to get those characters. Do not think that. Do not think that.
I think in some ways it might be because I think it's good to do Professor X. I think at this point we're going to just
How many times have we seen Professor X die? By the way,
times.
This is third
times on screen.
3 times on screen.
So funny. I love that.
You're just like, kill him again.
I guess they're all technically different universes because like Logan's definitely in its own bubble.
Right.
But what I was going to say is that like when we do the MCU, like proper MCU, like 616 universe in this of the X-Men, I doubt it will be Patrick Stewart. They're probably going to want to do their own fresh cast. And plus,
like First Class.
Patrick Stewart's not getting any younger.
No. And you can kind of, I love his scenes in this. By the way, if you don't know, I'm a huge Star Trek guy. And one of the reasons why I'm a huge Star Trek guy, Sir Patrick fucking Stewart, that man is one of the best actors of our lifetimes.
I remember back in the day,
the man's amazing.
I remember back in the day, back when there were rumblings that they were going to make an X-Men movie in Wizard magazine, way back in the day. Everyone was just like, Patrick Stewart, who plays Picard on Star Trek TNG, should be Professor X. And
he's always been the fan casting,
and
for good reason. And I think he even shows here. He's even at his age right now, he's still very much good at being Professor X, you know, and he brings that stage presence. That the whole scene where they're inside Wanda's mind and he's like, grab my hand, felt like I was watching a play all of a sudden. And I was just transported to a play here.
But it's
like what happened? I love it.
It's great for fan service.
First off, it felt very much like the X-Men movies because the all white is very much from X-Men 2.
You have like the Cerebro visions and stuff like that. You have the whole hallucination like thing.
So it's like what I loved about that is Sam Raimi's loving those other creations by making homage to them, but also kind of taking his own things.
Probably by extension Feige too, because Feige started off doing like the non-MCU stuff. Like he was a producer on those X-Men movies,
right? Before
the MCU was a thing.
And he was probably like, "Yeah, let's do the white thing." He's like, "Let's keep that visual language."
I think it's good as a tease for them to just be like, "We are playing with X-Men stuff now."
Yes, I think that's the great thing
especially
about this
post WandaVision. Thank you.
That I know a lot of people are like, oh great, they killed off Fantastic Four and X-Men, we'll never get it again. No, this is them being like, guys, here is the Fantastic Four and here is X-Men.
We're putting a line out.
Yeah, basically being like, you guys want a whole movie of this? So maybe, and everyone lost their mind. So we're getting another movie of this.
Some of these may or may not be the same actors. But
no, I think that's what they're doing here. Is they're saying it's going to be, at least for John Krasinski, they are definitely
that
saying
one. I think so.
He's locked in.
But it also could be one of those things where like, I don't want to be locked down, but I'll do this one thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the thing that people want.
Yeah, right.
So, and I'm sure they throw enough money at him, he'll do it. But the interesting thing is, we are supposed to be getting a Fantastic Four movie this phase.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be directed by John Watts, who's no longer doing it. And that makes me wonder, I'm like, is it because Krasinski maybe wants to direct it too if he's in it?
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Because he's directing stuff.
He's directed stuff, so I would love to see that. I would love to be like, it would be, is it the first Marvel actor director?
It would be, yeah.
That'd be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be big. That would set a precedent, but that's big, you know, like, I think that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do mean that, guys. For everyone's feeling despair watching this movie, you guys watched and were like, my favorite characters
the Patrick
were
Stewart
killed.
thing I'm a little more skeptical about, just because.
No, I agree with you there. They might just be like, first class, you know, like instead.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are so old now.
Yeah, I love them,
especially with Marvel
let
Studios
them
getting them back, and they want to fucking turn this into a franchise, another one to add to the belt.
Yeah,
like they're
which
probably
going
to
another 15 years. You know,
yeah,
like
that's the
which
thing.
I love Patrick Stewart, and I hope he does have 20, 30 more years.
But
I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I hope so, because I love that man.
That, and just from an economic standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, Marvel Studios is going to want to hire their own, like, young and hungry talent that they don't have to pay as much.
Which I thought was funny, the Catherine Kennedy statements the other
day.
Kathleen Kennedy, I think you saw it, where they were like, oh, we can't cast a no-name actor in a role, and we learned that from Solo. And you're like, that's the part that made you learn? That's not the part you were supposed to learn from Solo.
Yeah, she was also saying, like, people just didn't want to see someone besides Harrison Ford play Han Solo.
And you're like, no? Well, question mark?
75% yes for me.
Yeah.
But also, that was such a nothing movie, and no one asked specifically for a Han Solo origin story, and you fired Lord and Miller off of it.
Yeah, you're like, so you had it's another thing where you like had a movie and then you lost it and kept trying to go forward with it, and it didn't have the fucking engine behind it.
And I imagine it's because Lord and Miller actually had a take that scared you.
Yeah, they were like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. He's going to be an actual scoundrel? I will not let him.
We're actually going to do something like weird with this.
I would have loved to see Miller do some actual Star Wars stuff. That would have been awesome. But it's funny that they said that, though, because it's one of those things that you're just like, but you've gotten all these. I think they feel that way with all their new generation actors too, because there are definitely established names that are being these new generation ones.
Yeah,
which I kind of agree with her that these are big franchises with a lot of money behind it. You can't bet on somebody maybe being a hit, but also I feel like it's a dangerous thing to be like, no, we can't have non-veteran actors in main roles. That's crazy. You're like, how did you get so many movies in the 80s are like the first chances of all these actors, you know, like in the 90s, and you're just going to deny this whole generation.
And plus, it's not
first
necessarily
chances,
true, because you look at Pedro Pascal, he's primarily big in TV.
Yeah. Right? You're just like, so...
Pedro Pascal's a name, but he's not, like, huge.
Yeah, but they're saying... that I think they were saying, really, that they need a name of some sort, you know? Like, because, I mean, that's kind of the problem. They kind of ruined... who's the guy who plays Solo in that movie?
Alden Ehrenreich. He's got, like, a real, like...
German name.
German last name.
I think that he's kind of gotten shafted here, where they kind of blame. I think Hollywood kind of blames him, which is sad, because I don't think he was the part of Solo that sucked. I don't know if you all agree.
No,
with me,
that's like,
but the part of Solo that sucked was the movie.
He didn't,
not him.
To me, he just never felt like Han Solo. But that's like, he wasn't the problem with that movie.
Yeah, guys, he wasn't the fucking like. Yes, did Childish Gambino, Donald Glover outshine him as Lando?
It's also one of those things where, like, I feel like
Absolutely.
people not in the know, like, always sort of like put the blame on the wrong thing, especially if they don't really know how the process works.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of like,
well, Kathleen Kennedy, of course, knows how the process works.
Yeah,
so
she's a veteran.
She's an Oscar winner.
Yeah,
like, come on, guys.
But it's just one of those things where
put some
I think about
on her name.
It's like
the
same
way,
thing.
guys.
It's like the same thing with Carol Danvers with Brie Larson. You're just like, yeah, she's not great in Captain Marvel. That's not her fault.
That's not. Yeah,
this movie is a mess.
Yes, it's one of those things. Yeah, exactly. I think that she's good in the role in other things. Obviously, you know, like in when she shows up in all the Avengers movies, she's better than she is in Miss Marvel, and you're just kind of like,
when you get to the credits of Captain Marvel and you see that there are like 6-7 different writers, you're just like,
I think that shows also here with Multiverse Madness, one writer, guys. That's huge.
Michael
in the Marvel
Waldron,
universe.
who also wrote for Loki.
Yeah. But that's the thing is every property in Phase 4 before this has had at least 3 writers. At least. This is the only one in Phase 4 that's
unless
like
it's like really like that's ours. Like Marcus and McFeely usually do all the Avengers related stuff. James Gunn writes the Guardians movies.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not a thing that happens, you know? So I thought it was quite cool that they were like, nope.
Bringing up Loki is a good segue because I do think this is sort of becoming...
It kind of ties in, and I was actually sort of waiting for what's his name to show up in this. Kang to show up in this.
That's sort of my thing.
It's
starting to become more of a problem.
I thought he was going to be on the Illuminati. Was my thing. As I was waiting for the Illuminati scene when they were like, "Oh, your empty seat, but we filled it with Kang." Yeah. And I was like, okay, and then you kill Kang in that universe.
And that's sort of my ongoing issue with this phase so far is that it's felt sort of fragmented because we've still yet to like synergize the many multiverse projects that we've done, because we've done What If, we've done Loki, we did No Way Home, we did this, and all of them are all in their own little bubbles and sort of refuse to tie into each other all that much.
Yeah, you're like, wait, hold on, connect.
It's like,
connect up, guys.
It's just like, this is the big thing for your phase. How about these actually link up? I saw an article the other day, I think it was on Slash Film, where they're just like, I like Phase 4, but does anyone feel like this is like the most segmented the MCU's ever been in a while?
Yeah. It's one of those things that they've been very meticulous about connecting them all. And sort of, these are not connected. I feel like even Moon Knight especially, I saw somebody being like, after Moon Knight and seeing Multiverse of Madness, he said like some conclusion after that. And I'm like, how did you get that anything from Moon Knight was connected to Multiverse of Madness? Like you're just like, but other than these two movies had actual edge, and we've reached a moment where Marvel's not afraid of some fucking edge, especially on their Marvel shows.
And don't get me wrong, like I do get the idea that like, especially post the Thanos stuff, that maybe it's a good idea to like dial it back and sort of keep things a little solo for a while, but there are still like easy ways you can connect these.
Yeah. Other than everyone's experienced the blip.
Yeah. Like I've made the argument that instead of Strange just being dumb because Peter won't shut the hell up while he's doing the spell, it could have just been like, oh, the spell went fine. Something went wrong. We get like a little flash of like the universe is splintering from Loki. You don't even need to address it to be like, this is from Loki. Go watch this on Disney Plus. Just to not completely alienate the people who only watch the movies, but you could be like, that was not supposed to happen. Right. I don't know why. Let's fix... I'll deal with this later and see what happened, but we have all this other shit to deal with first.
I think they did a good job.
Or something like Kang being on the Illuminati.
Of connecting it to WandaVision without being like negating seeing WandaVision completely. Like it still made you feel like you needed to see WandaVision.
Yeah.
But if you didn't see WandaVision, you weren't like, what the fuck is going on?
But like, the splintering universes hasn't really paid off in anything outside of Loki.
No.
Like,
which is weird because Loki was one of the most successful of these.
Connects to WandaVision, but also doesn't connect to Loki. It doesn't connect to What If, even though they want to like cherry pick elements from What If, but not actually go with the versions from What If. I'm like, there's already been like a bunch of like small little missed opportunities here.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Especially when the MCU like boasts so much is like, we're the cinematic universe. Yeah. We've coined that term. Everyone's trying to rip us off. Everyone's trying to do what we do. So it's weird that everything's so kind of disconnected now. Yeah. And sure, there's a way to like
bring it all together,
funnel it in and bring it all together. Like you could argue
they'll
that
have an Avengers movie eventually.
Yeah, eventually, whether they call it like New Avengers or something, give it a subtitle to like establish like this is the new roster and like Kang's the big bad now.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I feel like Kang was an easy slot in here and they just didn't slot him in. Like and you're
Kang was like the natural progression. Like I had like theorized early on, and you were like, I don't think it's gonna be Kang at the end of Loki. I'm like, I think it's gonna be Kang because the moment you introduce time travel in Endgame, you open yourself up to Kang. It's the logical next step.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
Even if in the comics you could argue Thanos is a bigger villain than Kang, but because you've introduced that element, now you have something to work with.
Yeah, Kang's a follow-up, you know, like the next event, and that's what was going on here. And then they've kind of just been like, don't think about it for a bit. Don't think about the event for a bit. And like, I get that. Maybe they're maybe they're saving most of the Kang stuff for Loki season 2 because they're gearing that up. I was reading some news about that. They're really gearing up season 2, which I was like, okay,
if
cool.
you're going to do that, fine. But I hope it like ties into everything else because it would be weird for like this universe altering thing to just be on the TV show over here.
You're like, wait. And I do think it's funny that we almost got the Illuminati in Loki, and then we really do get the Illuminati here, you know, like, and you're like, okay, there it is. Like, because they were definitely sort of being like Illuminati in in Loki, and then they were like,
it could have been as simple as just like, you see the statues with the Illuminati. What if one of them was a Kang statue?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just something as simple as that.
Simple.
Just like, oh, I've seen Loki, so I get that. But anyone who didn't watch Loki will be like, oh, I didn't even notice.
I don't even know what that is. I do think that the whole scene with Wanda is one of the best parts of this entire movie, of her tearing these guys apart. I know it's so divisive to everybody watching, but that's the fun of it, you know? Like, is it supposed to be horrifying?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like, wow, look at all these cool new characters we just introduced.
This is something that an actual comic would do, just to be like,
aha. I do love that. I do love that. Like, yeah, we're saved because the Illuminati's here. And you're like, no, you ain't. Wanda's way worse. Like, and you're just like, oh shit. I love her walking around like she's a what do they call it in
a Deadeye?
A Deadeye. I loved all the Deadeye movements coming from. First off, I knew there's lots of scenes where it is Elizabeth Olsen doing it, and you're like, yeah, girl, get it, fuck it, yeah. Like it's like you're like, do that horse shit.
The like evil demonic version of her that like pounces on Xavier to break his neck.
Oh.
And she's got like sharp teeth and everything, and the way she's like limping through the tunnel with like. He's like with like her magic, and all you see is like the red of her eyes, or this like
yes, I love it. And then to even take it further, where you're like, it's almost a Deadeye, to being like Doctor Strange is now a Deadeye. You know,
he
like,
even speaks, he even talks like a Deadeye.
Right?
I think Red Letter Media made fun of this. It's just like for some reason Sam Raimi zombies talk like pirates.
Right.
America.
But the thing about Dead Strange in this was so great because it lets Benedict Cumberbatch, especially all the different Stranges, lets Benedict Cumberbatch show off his acting chops more than normal. You know, like in these, that's how I kind of felt about the first movie is he gets to just play billionaire playboy sort of, and, you know, humbled and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, that's okay. But this was like, okay, you got that, you got this, you got Dead, you know, like you got.
I know we prop up like Benedict Cumberbatch is like this prestigious
Oscar nominated, but every year he gets nominated for an Oscar. He's prestigious, you know, like fuck yeah.
Which is true. But he likes to be silly.
Yes.
Like all you need to do is like watch
the Smaug stuff.
That's what I was gonna say. Watch the motion capture stuff for him playing Smaug in the Hobbit movies. Him just crawling. Just like I just want this cut of the movie.
I always want to say that I bet Peter Jackson didn't even ask for that. They were like, all right, so we're gonna capture you, what do you want to do? And he just like got down on the floor, and they were like, okay, we're gonna be down on the floor today, everybody. You know, like,
there's a lot of things wrong with those movies. The way Smaug is not one of them.
Yes, yeah.
Like he looks great, he sounds great, everything surrounding that fucking dragon is dope as hell.
It's true.
Those movies have other problems. It's the same thing with Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman's great.
Yeah.
Those movies have other problems.
That they're 3 movies is the real issue. You're like, why did we make this 3 movies? There should have been 2 or maybe just 1.
I could see how it could have worked as 2.
It could have worked as 1. Anyways,
so we're talking about the Dead Strange stuff now.
So we basically
actually before the Dead Strange, we have the confrontation with the Evil Strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Where
before we get to the Dead Strange stuff.
Well. Yeah. No. Yeah. Because he fights Evil Strange. Yeah. So they're hopping. They get sent through another universe. America has been stolen by Scarlet Witch and has been brought because she's able to like control her mind and that's when you know America's good to go because Scarlet Witch is able to unlock her powers like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, and first off, that's a great scene that she's able to unlock her powers because you're like, that's real Scarlet Witch shit where she's reaching into like a superhero's brain and making them use the powers. You're like, that's some real Scarlet Witch shit, guys. Like that. I don't know if that made anybody else really hype. It really made me hype. I was like, oh shit, yeah, let's go. Like, and then
Strange and Christine get transported to like a universe that seems to be like falling apart and crumbling. It looks very much like the one from What If, where it's like all dissipating.
I love this scene. I love this whole thing because this whole universe thing, because first off, it looks great. It's Sam Raimi showing off a lot of great CGI too. It's like really fantastically made. It looks really creepy. It's awesome. It looks like it jumped from a storyboard is basically it, especially the giant stairs to the moon scene with that was I said it earlier that I was fully erect, but I was fully erect during that. I was like, damn, that looks amazing. You know, like that it's totally just straight out of Sandman sort of, but it looks amazing. You know, like that was one of my favorite parts there, just visually. And then the whole music fight, which I loved.
So dope.
That was great. I was so just like, at first I was like, oh, he's not using the dragons from What If, and then they started fighting with the music notes, and I was like, never mind, I love this.
This is way cooler.
This is way cooler, and it shows off also more of Danny Elfman's like endless talent because he was able to mix two different classic songs together in a fight arrangement that made sense, and like. It was awesome. Like, it was just awesome. I know it's such a nerdy moment, but it's like I really liked it. Like I thought it was really cool and definitely one of the coolest fight scenes in the movie. You know, just
it's
fighting with music.
It's that step further because it could have been so easy to be like, oh, they're throwing music notes at each other, so you know this note makes this note. Yeah, but then they fully made it's just like, oh, it also composes the music to the fight music.
Yeah, right. You're like, whoo.
You're like. That extra step.
That extra step is beautiful. I really thought that was such a cool scene. So it's like I'll forgive that it's not exactly the guy from What If because that scene was sick. I do think they kind of. I thought they were kind of alluding that they didn't kill that Strange when they launched him off and he went through the
fence post,
which I love too. That was so just like The Exorcist, and I was like, I love that. But I thought they were alluding that he wasn't dead when he opened his eyes, and they like just didn't play with that at all. That she just kind of ran away after his eye opened, and I was like, so is he dead? Is anybody gonna make sure that Doctor Strange that's evil is dead, or are we just gonna let him?
Or is that sentient eye just kind of chilling now?
Just chilling in his head. You're like, and that's what I think they were alluding to, that the sentient eye moved from him to him, or that the sentient eye is the sacrifice you give for using the Darkhold. Is that like some evil presence has entered your fucking brain or something like that?
Either way, I'm down.
Very Doctor Strange.
Then we get to Deadeye Strange.
Yes, which is dope. I think it's very Marvel. It's very Disney, but I thought
it's also just kind of metal as fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's already cool with like, ooh, Zombie Strange. That's dope. But then when like all these like evil spirits are just like, you are not allowed to possess like the dead, blah 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 blah, and it's just like, fuck you. Let me control all of you. Yes. And I'm gonna turn you into a cape made of like disembodied spirits. I'm like, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen.
I love it because
like,
it's same.
That ticks such in like edgelord box for me. I'm like, oh, it's so fucking dark and cool.
I love it because it's the same move that he used against Thanos, the many hands, but now it's many hands, dead hands. You know, like, and that was
one of those things where like the reveal of it was in the trailer, but it's like so quick and you're not really sure what you're looking at.
Yeah, and you're
like, oh, that's a fucking giant cape made of like souls.
So, yeah. Dope. And that was very Evil Dead, that finally the evil spirits were like talking, and I was like, and I know that Sam Raimi was very deliberate in this, that he didn't want to like come into this movie and be like, I'm doing my hits, I'm doing the Sam Raimi thing. And I think that that's what's cool about this scene, is that it feels Sam Raimi, but is so unique to this movie, you know, like that it's not just him talking to the Deadites in Bruce Campbell talking to the Deadites. This is like different, you know, like
Sam Raimi, I think, and he definitely learned this like on the Spider-Man movies, which is definitely more emphasized with just the big Marvel Studios machine. he's very humble about it. He's just like, look, I come in here to present like sort of a stamp, but at the end of the day, like this moves on without me.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not here to like necessarily ruin everything for everyone or like really draw attention to myself, but I'm sort of just, I come here to play and then I move on.
Yeah. And I think that he plays well here, especially in this whole ending where he is, you know, dream walking into a dead body and then fighting Wanda and the big giant fucking creatures that Wong and him fight. And then the whole fucking end sequence is so it's so Sam Raimi. It's fun. It's big. It's epic.
It's also like the big magic fight that I wanted in the first movie. Like I wanted two sorcerers to go head to head. Just like as much as I appreciate the like time turning like gimmick, and how they put him in a causal loop and it was clever and it was also a good subversion and not be a traditional fight.
Yes,
I kind of just want like pew pews.
Yeah, right. Let's see some pew pews.
Like I want to see magic versus magic shit.
Yeah, and it definitely you didn't get that with the attack on
Carmitage. Mostly because it's like Wanda just fucking
destroys them.
Bulldozing.
Yeah, she just fucking wrecks them, and I was just like, oh shit. But then she's just not fighting magic people.
And how many like decent like actual like sorcerer versus sorcerer, like magic user versus magic user fights do we actually have in movies?
Not many. So this is really cool. You know, like this is quite wild. And also to like kind of play that Wong's dead and then bring him back and then have him do the fight, which I thought they were gonna kill him here. I really did. I was like they kind of played up that Wong's been helpful to him and like they might take him out, and I was like, good, okay.
Yeah, like how does Strange manage things without Wong?
Yeah,
or like how are we gonna get Strange to be Sorcerer Supreme, because we got to do that at some point.
Which I kind of like that they're kind of holding that off. It makes that maybe you finish the trilogy with him becoming,
and there's still like a goal.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to disappear yet,
especially if you're assuming that like they always assume like 3 movies by default. Maybe if you're lucky and you're like Thor, you'll get a 4th one, but we're assuming you might just get the 3.
Yeah, right. We're just assuming. Yeah. That makes the most sense. You might get
people
a
like
Christmas
threes.
special now.
You know what I mean?
You might get a Christmas special now. We're gonna get that Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. I'm like, oh,
holiday
okay.
special.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
There better be a Star Wars holiday special joke in there,
right? Gotta do it. Now, I think this end fight sequence is really cool. It's really metal with the giant bat soul wings. You know, like that's super sick. It's a big fight scene between the two of them. I think some people may have also hated that like she realized that she was a monster even after tearing apart the fucking Illuminati. Like once she was like mean to her kids, she realized it. Yeah. But I think that was like a real kind of moment there, and felt very comic booky too, where it's just like, oh, I am the monster, like I thought I was being a monster for my kids, but obviously I'm terrified.
I've also seen the criticism that they feel like this is a walk back on Wanda's character at the end of WandaVision, to which I'm like, no, Wanda did really bad things at the end of WandaVision. Yeah. Like just the controlling these people.
Yes.
For
like
so
basically
long.
Holding them hostage, like against their will. Like
in fact, it kind of rings hollow when Monica's just like, they'll never know what you sacrificed. You're like, Wanda did some really fucked up shit here. She really did. And plus, like, the amount of grief that she's been through, it kind of just leads me to believe that she should have just gone full bad guy.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
But you didn't. But then you're just like, well, we did. We just did it a little later.
I do kind of... It is kind of sad that she is kind of dead at the end here. Like,
I doubt she's gone.
She doesn't die on screen. It's basically it. The same thing, guys. It's the rule.
And plus,
if people don't die on screen, they're not dead.
Elizabeth Olsen has tried so hard to like finally get to like traditional Scarlet Witch shit.
Yeah.
To finally just do it at the end of WandaVision. And this, I doubt that's it.
Yeah, I do think they've used her as the villain, so maybe we won't get more villain Wanda, but it'd be kind of sad if they just fully axed Wanda.
I doubt it. It seems like we'll just pocket this for now, and then we'll make it a big reveal.
But it makes it a very dramatic ending. Is what I want to say. Is that like I know, guys, you have to fucking detach your disappointment of maybe not seeing a character again to surface the plot. Like, I know that's kind of crazy.
That's another thing. That's actually a good segue, because I was almost going to forget to bring this up, just with the Illuminati in general.
Yep.
There's also this weird fan thing, and yeah, we sort of did it with the John Krasinski thing, but don't expect something to be in there just because it's something that like one fan came up with and everyone thought it was really cool, so now people demand it like it's going to happen, and then they're disappointed that they don't get what they want.
I know, they were talking about how there was a Tom Cruise cameo where he plays Tony Stark.
Yeah, because Tom Cruise was in the running for Tony Stark way back in the day, so it would have been like a cute little inside thing.
But they confirmed it way before the movie came out, guys. I know this was a fan theory, but the reason why it was even a story at all is because it was something they wanted to do, but was everyone knew it was stifled because they're doing a 2-part Mission Impossible movie. Yeah. So, and the Top Gun Maverick, which we know those are Tom Cruise's like big franchises. Yeah. Why would he leave that to do a Marvel movie?
Especially for especially for just like Illuminati stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things that this story was shot down before the movie happened. You know, same thing with the Deadpool cameo that was supposed to happen. Yeah. You know, like, and you're just like, no, which I kind of did expect them to like, you know, drop Deadpool in like an after credit scene at some point, but I was kind of happy they didn't.
I feel like it would have been easy. I feel like it would have been as simple as just like Deadpool wandering in to see all the dead bodies of the Illuminati, just like, what the hell happened? And then like that's it.
Right? I would have been fine with that. Like, oh Jesus. But I kind of I thought it was interesting the consequences of her dream walking there, that she basically went to another universe and used another Wanda to murder the Illuminati. And then they somehow didn't go and kill Wanda in that universe after that. Yeah, she got away and walked home.
Yeah, I wonder what the deal with that Wanda is, because Vision doesn't seem to be around, but she has her kids.
Yep. So obviously, sort of WandaVision happened, but the kids stayed.
Vision is gone, but she's also not like.
Or they had kids.
But she's also like sort of like pre-Scarlet Witch, like Age of Ultron Scarlet Witch. So I'm like.
But obviously powerful enough when she's dreamwalking. So that's the weird part about the dreamwalking there, is that like, so are you implying that when she's dreamwalking in her, she gets your Scarlet Witch powers? Or is this Wanda just like that powerful, you know, like, and just they were using her powers in that universe? You know, like, it's a very weird gray question.
That's also another reason why I think they're just pocketing Scarlet Witch for now, is because we still got White Vision wherever the fuck he went.
Yeah, right. They're just like, okay, goodbye.
Wherever the hell he went off to.
Goodbye. Yeah, because they can't just bring White Vision back without Wanda, you know, like, unless they're gonna do like Vision's back and he's looking for Wanda, you know, type of thing. But
so that's up in the air wherever that pays off.
Wherever that fucking shit is. But basically, guys, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was fun. I thought we finally got a true. There were several jump scares that got me. Several. There was several. Like, I mean, they were simple, but like there were several moments where I literally jumped. I was like, oh shit, like, and I thought that was great. I was like, okay, so a real horror movie where we have creepy situations, like a great setting, actual violence and gore, and straight up just like evil shit, you know. And I was like, all right, some action. This is the first Marvel movie categorized as a horror movie, and I love that. You know, like, you're like, okay, let's go. Like, let's. I know we might not get any more like this, so I feel like that's why you gotta kind of cherish this one, is that this, for the horror fans, this is it, you know, like, and I would even recommend to people who are not Marvel people, you're not like, you haven't watched all the movies, I don't know why you have listened this long if you're not a huge Marvel person, but it's like, if you're not a huge Marvel person, I would say watch this if you're a big horror guy, because this is still cool.
Yeah, it has some cool stuff in it. It might be a little weird.
It's gonna be weird
because there is some baggage there.
Yeah. Tons. Really. Yeah. I think Dan Slott has been tweeting about it a lot, but like the amount of things that the MCU movies are now expecting you to know has reached comic book level, you know, like where they're like, which I think is the reason why comics have been around for as long as they have is they have this great gimmick of being like, and it started in Stan Lee, of course, and before him, but being like, when a character came on screen, they're like, want to see more blank? See blank. And they would put a little box in the corner and tell you what issue to read and where. And that is how I got cooked on comics when I was a kid. Yeah, and I was like, who the fuck are these people? I need to read more of those comics.
And not only does it work for their sales because they got you to buy another issue, it makes you as a reader feel like you're rewarded because like I'm in the know. I read that.
And I do agree with the meme that's been going around when they're like in 2056 when a new Marvel fan needs to watch 156 movies and 26 movie shows just to get caught up. You're like, yeah, but that's kind of been the thing about comics forever is if you haven't read it all, you might not get a reference.
And it was
which is kind of the scary part of comics.
Like kind of
intimidating.
Especially, it was an inevitability with a project like this to sort of like make that work, but for movies where like everything's connected and this is going to tie into this and then they're going to have a big crossover and we're going to keep connecting things. Like eventually you were going to get to a point where unless you did a hard reboot, like you kind of need to know other stuff.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the time to be like, well, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. We don't have time to like exposition dump all these other movies.
All these other things.
You just got to fucking go and assume you know.
Yeah. And I'm glad we finally reached that era where we're just going.
And plus, to be honest, we're at a point in time with technology that like any of these are super accessible, so it's not like
it's all on Disney Plus.
So it's not like you don't have access to it to be able to catch up if you want to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It is if you want to, guys. You do not feel obligated to fucking catch up on all the Marvel movies so you can feel in the know. You know? Like I watch what you like to watch, and I would say that this is absolutely. There's some great Marvel movies. This is absolutely one of my favorites. I know that's bold of me to say, because in a world where I enjoyed a lot of these, I think I love this because it is a horror movie. That's really it. It's like we did it.
I was afraid
it's fun and it's awesome. And it feels like a Sam Raimi movie.
That the Sam Raimi wasn't gonna maybe not come through, and it definitely comes through.
Oh, comes through, and it feels like he's grown. That's the best part to me. Is it's like when you watch a new Edgar Wright movie and you're like, oh, he's playing off of the thing he did in the last movie, and he's evolving that. You're like, oh, I fucking love you. And like, that's what it feels like here, where you're like, oh, he's evolving on that thing he did in Spider-Man 2. Oh, he's evolving on Evil Dead. You know, like, it feels
it's like
evolved.
Just like, ooh, Hot Fuzz. Just like, wow, he's experimenting. Same thing with like the tropes from Shaun of the Dead, except it's for cop movies now, and it's a lot more nuanced. And you get to like The World's End, just like, ooh, look at the fight choreographer. He definitely learned that working on Scott Pilgrim.
Right? You're like, oh, shit. And I think that's the great part about this is it feels like a movie evolution for Sam Raimi, and it feels like a evolution for the Marvel movies for being actually dark, where you're just like, oh, cool, you know, like where we got inklings of that in What If, where we were like, we're gonna do some dark shit, and you're like, okay, cool, but let's do it.
Which,
like
so long as you actually stay dark, like, okay, I know you guys are making Blade. And it's probably not going to be rated R. I'm going to be upset.
I'm going to be fucking upset.
I'm going to be upset.
But
you know what? If you keep it relatively as violent as maybe something like this, maybe it won't be too bad.
No. I do still have a lot of worries about Blade. I have a lot of worries about Blade. Now, I do see why people have problems with this movie. I just want to say that I enjoyed this immensely. I thought that great soundtrack, great cast, great action. But I see the problems. Pacing-wise, a little weird. Characters you've been waiting to see your entire life dead in minutes. And really, it expects you to know a lot. Almost as much as No Way Home does, where it's just like, oh, not only do you need to know
the two Spider-Man
movies, but all those other Spider-Man movies you may have missed, you know, like, which I'm totally for.
And all the non-Spider-Man movies that Spider-Man has shown up in, like the Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame.
And they'll reference it, you know, they referenced it. And you're like, okay, so, you know, like.
But on the positive note, just like horror stuff, violent, creative, Sam Raimi
heroes
actually
we haven't seen.
Like universe hopping.
And it didn't
much more
offend me with the universe hopping too, you know, like I wasn't like, you know, like, or that they were kind of rehashing what they did in Into the Spider-Verse, you know, like I didn't feel that either.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, good.
I also didn't expect it to be like bigger than it was. That's another complaint. It's just like, I thought this was going to be way crazier.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is I think people thought this was going to be the multiversal war and not just Doctor Strange really going through the multiverse. Because it really, guys, if we take a look at this is the first movie where they're going to different dimensions multiple times. Other than the What If, you know, it's very set, you know, where they are, and things come to them, especially in No Way Home. It's very that everything's coming to them.
Yeah.
This is Doctor Strange going somewhere else. Yeah. You know, like, and
so like it's opening the door.
Yes. Finally we're going other places. And even Into the Spider-Verse, everyone's coming there, you know, like, so it's very, a lot of the multiverse stuff we've done before has been very like, oh, they've come into our universe. I like that we finally went, let's go to theirs. You know, like, let's finally go other places, other universes. And I think that's the thing about fans with these Marvel movies and these Disney things, and I think will be a problem with Obi-Wan Kenobi, is that people are expecting these gigantic movies and shows, and not that they're making you know, 4 of these at the same time all lined up.
Yeah,
you know, like,
and it's also just like, it speaks to sort of that like mentality of just like, well, it didn't blow me away.
Yeah, and you're like, okay.
Just like that sort of like binary, just like it's either amazing and life-changing or I hate it.
Yeah, and I think that happened also with the Batman. There's tons of fans who were like, that was mind-blowing. I love that. I love that change. But then I saw a bunch of people being like, yeah, you know, like,
it didn't blow me away.
It didn't blow me away. And you're like, okay. And you're like, I think that's definitely a problem, is that movies can just be a fucking movie, guys.
Yeah.
I think that's...
Not everything's an event.
You will have a problem watching movies if you think every movie's going to blow you away. You shouldn't be watching only movies that blow you away also. I don't think that that's a healthy way to fucking take in art, to only watch the seminal works all the time. It's not a fucking healthy way to take in media. You know, like, you can't just constantly watch perfect things, because then you'll see something that's not perfect, or, you know, I'm doing that in quotes, but like a high piece of art, you know, a class A piece of art, a fucking, yeah, they've been joking with this is high art, you know, this is high cinema, you know, like, it's, I've seen a lot of jokes about that on Twitter.
Which, if you guys haven't seen, watch that interview with Ethan Hawke.
Yes.
Where he talks about, like, he doesn't believe that there's such a difference as high art and low art. It's just a matter of like, and we've talked about this before, just in different words. It's like, it's just a matter of like how passionate someone is about a work.
Yes.
And sometimes just like, no matter if it's a more commercial movie, you can feel the passion, or if it's something more indie, you can feel like it's still a cash-in because there's no passion behind it.
Exactly.
We've talked about it before. Passion versus cash-in.
And the passion shows. I think having an actual human connection to a thing shows in movies, and I think that's what really I liked about this, is that Sam Raimi, since Spider-Man 3, has been made a couple movies that don't feel passionate, you know, like, and I'm sure he did have passion for them, I'm sure he did, but it didn't feel there, and this is it. You know, this, you can feel the Sam Raimi. You can feel he's having fun again.
Horror is definitely
he's having a good time.
Horror is like his genre.
Benedict Cumberbatch is having a good time. I think this is the first time Benedict Cumberbatch has had a good time with the role. Is what I was thinking during this movie too. Is that, like, in the other ones he's like, I'm making money. I'm making a ton of money.
The first two Spider-Man movies definitely have like a reverence. He's just like, clearly like, I respect this.
Yes.
Spider-Man 3 is a different case. It's very much like studio fucking with him.
Even though he cared, you know.
But the thing is, this feels like it comes through because it's clear that, like, he loves spooky, silly shit.
Yeah.
So, like, when you're able to actually put that in that subgenre, he's allowed to just be like, oh, I love this stupid
It's one of those things where it to me, I think the other reason why this stands above a lot of the other Marvel movies, too, is it feels so him. You know, somehow he has changed Doctor Strange, which has kind of always been a Sam Raimi type of thing, into a Sam Raimi type of thing. You know, it's his. Same way the Guardians are very James Gunn now. They might, might not be the thing that's in the comics all the time, but now that's his, you know, like, and I think that's kind of what's going on here is that Doctor Strange has very dark stories and we haven't gotten one and we got one, you know,
and
like,
it's also good that like Marvel Studios would be able to like just kind of sit back a little bit and let him do his thing, because like Sam Raimi was the progenitor. Like you don't get stuff like the MCU without those first couple Spider-Man movies or those first couple X-Men movies or the original Blade. Like it was all milestones, which again speaks to the whole like don't take, if you don't like a movie, too personally and don't exaggerate. Remember, we thought Batman and Robin was the death of comic book movies, and then Blade came out a year later.
Yeah, you're like, okay, guys, it's okay.
Relax.
And they called it like the fall of comic book movies after that, and we still had Blade, you know, like, and you're like, don't think so, guys.
And I still hear that every couple of years when there's like an especially bad movie that comes out. I heard that when Superman Returns came out.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that when Fan 4 Stick came out. She's like, is this finally the end? Just like, no. When the end comes, you probably won't notice. It'll just kind of simmer down.
You won't even... We still get cowboy movies, guys. I always compare it to cowboy movies, because it's a very unique... It's an American genre. If we're talking the very American genres that are around... Cowboy is unique to America, and so is superheroes. And of course, other countries have done these, but really, we've created the genre. You know, like it's the same way. You know, like jazz was everywhere before, but really, jazz came from America. You know, like, and I think that that's what's so interesting is that it's a very unique USA genre.
Yeah, as far as like the way we execute it.
Yeah.
Because other like cultures have like sort of their own equivalents, but there are like different things that make it distinctly theirs.
Yes.
Like the equivalent to the superhero genre, like over on the Japanese side, is more like tokusatsu stuff.
Yes.
Which is superhero-y, but it's like very much its own flavor.
Very much. And I think that the same thing can be said in Bollywood. They changed their superheroes to be more kinetic and almost unbelievable at points, you know, like, but that's the fun, you know, like, it's just like, it's kind of going way over the top, you know, like, and I find that with a lot of foreign superhero movies that they think it's just the fun of going over the top, you know, like, especially with like the Russian Avengers films that they did with the giant bear that just runs around with and you're like, okay. And of course, China's genre of that is doing the ancient stories as giant action movies, you know, like that's very much a genre over there, you know, like of telling these ancient fairy tales, but in new action-y ways, you know, either animated or not. And I think that very much America has its genre of superhero films of being like, this is how we do it. This big connected thing, you know, like this is how we do our movies, you know? And I think that that's a good thing and a bad thing, but I don't know if we'll ever see the death of it because we never seen the death of cowboy movies.
Yeah,
even if it like Power of Dog at the Oscars this year, guys. Like,
even if we simmer down, we'll still get it occasionally.
Oh yeah,
it'll just be back to like the days where it was before the MCU, where like we didn't get this shit every year, but you know, every now and again we still gotta get a new Batman movie.
Right now, we've entered into kind of the 40s or 50s. Hollywood chain again of we've made this assembly line of movies and movie houses. So and that's what's really going on is that like all year long they have booked series that is just going to keep going, and they're going to work on these things and keep moving forward to just keep working, you know, like, and I think that we've entered that age again of the independent films still happen, of course, but these big studios assembly lining a lot of these movies. And I think that can lead to a lot of rough, you know, movies, but also we get cool things like
it also puts like mid-budget films in a really weird place.
Yes.
Like I've noticed that a lot where they just tend not to do well because if it's low budget, it's one thing because you have that sort of like independent push towards it, like, oh, this is like a limited thing, and then it'll eventually go on. Mid-budget
like
is weird because it's sort
right
of
now and then, you know, like they have these indie runs.
But then you have like sort of mid-budget movies, which usually just, you know, they're like mid-budget movies like comedies and stuff like that. Like I just watched Booksmart recently.
Yeah, good stuff.
Really funny.
Really funny.
Really like that movie.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where if this were a few years ago, that movie would do fairly well. Now it bombed.
Yeah, you're like what?
And that's sort of a case for a lot of like mid-budget movies like that, where they're just like, it's not so indie that I really want to go out of my way with it because it's limited, but it's not so big that I really have to go to the theaters to see it.
Yeah, and I think in a streaming world, that's also the problem, is that these mid-budget movies now are being sent to streaming pretty fast. Nightmare Alley is one of those, I think, prime examples of where they were like, it's got a theater run. Okay, it didn't work out. We're going straight to the streaming. You know,
that one's especially sad because that was the most money Fox Searchlight has ever spent on a project.
Really?
Yeah.
That's huge.
For like that division, which is specifically like their indie division, or like, I guess
now
it's just Searchlight Pictures now.
Searchlight now. Searchlight. Fox is gone.
But like that's always been like their indie division. They do stuff like Nightmare Alley or like Sideways is a Searchlight movie.
Love
so it's just like,
I mean, we'll see what happens with Searchlight now that Disney's behind it, you know, like what's going to happen, you know, like, are they going to keep it going? I hope so, but we'll see.
But that's also another case of just like, we just keep fucking doing Guillermo del Toro dirty forever just doing my man dirty.
A great artist just being done dirty.
That's constantly. Why I've just been stubborn about, like, I've been seeing a bunch of movies this year. I've been going to the Coolidge a lot. It's funny because I saw this and Everything Everywhere all at once the same day, like one after the other. And Everything all at once is probably my favorite movie of the year. It's going to be really hard to top it.
Huh. That's great.
It's really fucking good.
That's awesome.
And it's funny that it's also a multiverse movie.
Yeah, you're like, what?
Very different.
Very different. And I heard that made a lot of great money too.
Thankfully,
they thankfully made a lot of money.
It seemed like the exact. I think if they had the right push for it, where I saw a lot of people, even people I wouldn't normally think would be into it, like Rob.
Yeah, being like, oh,
he's just like, I really want to see that. It's just like, go see it so you can tell me if I should see it. I'm like, I'm gonna go see it. So I'm glad that it sort of had like that exact like zany poem, like this looks weird and kind of out there, but it seems kind of fun too. Let's go see it, because it seemed like that exact type of movie where if they didn't market it perfectly, it wouldn't been lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. It would have been, and I'm glad it didn't get lost in the shuffle.
And sometimes it's just a matter of that marketing it well.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think a lot of marketing can sink or swim a show. You know, like I always bring up New Girl, where you're like the advertising for the show did nothing for this show.
It makes me wonder like how movies, even as far back as like 10 years ago when we were in college, like Drive would have done now.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, true. It's like Drive would have been one of those, like, I mean, it was an undercurrent movie, but like it would have been like really under the current, you know, like here, which I'm glad it's not, and it means that that director
Nicholas Winding Refn,
it can keep doing weird shit. Let him do weird shit, like Neon Demon. Like keep doing weird shit. Neon Demon's not good, but keep doing weird shit, bro. You know,
like someone like Alex Garland, who like sort of shifts constantly between like mid-budget and more like
giant
broader movies,
blockbusters a couple times, you know, like it's changed up, you know, like you're like, all right, cool buddy. Now pretty much let's give it the rating. Multiverse of Madness. Now do you pre-order it? The scale, of course, guys, is pre-order it, get it now, get it on sale, and nope. And when we say get it now, that could be we could change it with the streaming movie to stream it, you know, like, it's like see it, you know, like definitely a see it thing. Now, what would you say to this? This is
I'll definitely get it physically. It'll be one of those things where like, if they do a really nice steelbook of it, I'll probably get that. Yeah.
This for me, even though I'm saying it's one of my favorite of the Marvel movies, it's not a pre-order for me. I don't know if I'm going to go out of my, unless there's a really nice steelbox, but like, I will get this movie though. I want to own as well.
This. I have the steelbook of the first movie, mostly because it looked really nice. It's like designed to look like the Eye of Agamotto.
Oh, that's cool.
So like that's dope. If I have that, and I think this is a much better movie than the first one, I might as well get the steelbook. It just depends on whether or not the design on it looks nice.
I would say the best way to review this is if you saw the first Doctor Strange movie and you were like, that wasn't Doctor Strange. This is your movie to be like, that's Doctor Strange. You know, that felt like Doctor Strange.
This actually felt strange.
Yeah, right? And I dig that. I want that. I want that strangeness to be still happening in these big budget movies, you know? Like, now, I would say basically it's either get it and or get it on sale if you're not really into MCU. But I still think this is one of those that even if you're not into the MCU, it's a cool
for us,
horror movie. It's a big budget horror movie.
Also, 2 post-credit scenes, they were fun.
Yeah. So you have Clea coming out, who's one of Doctor Strange's wives in the comics. So I don't know how they'll handle.
She's like a sorcerer who specifically like specializes in the dark dimension.
Yep, and
which I mean, we just sort of like wrote out the possibility that Strange is going to be with Christine. So it's just like, well, here's the other love interest.
Yeah, here's the other love interest. I also love that Charlize Theron. Yeah, she's always beautiful and fantastic, you know, like, and you're just like, and with Charlize Theron, you know it's going to be action.
And plus I love that it subverts like the ending of the film, where it's just like, it's very Sam Raimi, the like screaming into camera as the eye comes out. I'm like, I love that. So silly, so Sam Raimi. And the fact that it's just like, I got that under control now. We're just going to embrace this shit.
Embrace this shit. And then, of course, the second scene is Pizza Popper, with him being like, it's over.
It's over.
I love that, though. I was like, wow.
I'm so glad I went to the Coolidge to see that.
Yeah,
everyone loved Bruce Campbell. It's like, this is the right crowd. Plus, they were civil. It was like opening day, and people were like, you know, excited and cheered, but they didn't get to the point where it's like, I can't fucking hear what's going on. It was like the right level for me.
Nice. That's great. I would say this is a lot of fun. I can see why it's decisive. I can see why divisive. I can see why some people might not enjoy it. I can see that. Are you wrong? Yeah, you're wrong. It's fun. It's great. Take it less seriously, guys, is basically it. Just do not get upset that but I just got my John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic and he said 3 lines. You're like, you still got him, and you probably have not lost him. So calm the fuck down. And for everybody who spoiled this movie for me, fuck yourselves. That's what I'll say.
It was rough.
It was rough. Spoilers were rough for this.
I saw it opening night at the Coolidge, came out of it, watched like one review of it on YouTube just to see like what else other people that I like and respect and follow like thought about it. Immediately afterwards, already in my recommended, was just like, here's a spoiler in the thumbnail. Here's a spoiler in the thumbnail. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Good thing I didn't prep with watching these.
Yeah, right. You're like, Jesus Christ. Exactly. I think that it was spoiled for me on Twitter and Facebook, which is kind of surprising.
And I had warned you as soon as I came out too. I'm like, dude, don't fuck around.
Yeah, and I fucked around and found out.
And to be fair, like, you were also unable to go for a while.
Yeah, because Mary had COVID, so it was like one of those things where I was like, I could go today, but I'm basically close contacting constantly with my wife having it, so it's like, can't really do fucking shit about that. You gotta wait.
Well, you're being responsible.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be responsible. There's just no point in getting a bunch of people sick in a theater just to see a movie, you know? Like, goddamn, it's just a movie. Especially because I bet in a month I'm gonna be able to watch it again on fucking Disney Plus. But I wanted to see it in theaters. I keep trying to see the big Marvel standalones in theaters, like Shang-Chi and this.
I'm trying to get you to my level where you're just watching more besides that.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. I'm trying.
Because I've been watching a lot.
I know. There wasn't anything at the Cinemark this time that sparked my interest to go see, but I definitely want to.
And the Coolidge is definitely out of your way.
Yeah, at the moment.
It's a little out of both of our ways, but I'm still closer to it.
Exactly. I am seeing Bob's Burgers tonight, so that'll be good. That'll be worth it. But I guess that's a tentpole too, you know? Sort of.
It's sort of like an established thing.
Yeah, you're like, I'm excited about it. We're going to see it at the Somerville Theater, and Eugene Merman is introducing, so that'll be fucking awesome.
Nice.
And that'll just be fun. And I love the Somerville Theater. We constantly talk about the Coolidge, but Somerville Theater also does a lot of cool things. That's where I saw Logan black and white. I saw the black and white version.
Oh, Logan Noir.
Logan Noir.
Sweet.
I still have the ticket and everything. It's awesome. Nice. It was great to see it there. And
I don't think I've been to the Somerville Theater.
Really?
Yet.
It's a fun one.
I also want to go to the Menden Drive-In at some point. I just don't have a car.
I went to it for the first time.
It was Halloween and Halloween Kills, right?
Yeah, that was awesome. They were playing Venom on the other screen, and I was like watching Halloween, and then you look over like way over there, and Venom was raving, and I was like, I'm glad I'm watching this one. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I don't doubt that. Even for someone who didn't like Halloween Kills all that much, I'm still just like, I'd probably be the same way. Just like, okay, maybe this doesn't seem too bad.
And I will, once they have it for free somewhere, I'm gonna watch Venom. But that was one of those movies that I was like, I do not need to see that in theaters.
I still haven't even seen the first
one.
Oh,
and I'm excited for Morbius to hit streaming, for everyone to lose their goddamn minds about Morbius about streaming. Like, oh no, we brought up Morbius.
Someone posted it in my Discord the other day. Just the whole thing is one file.
The whole movie?
The whole movie, because they have Discord Nitro, so they have unlimited, like a file limit. Someone just posted it just right there as a joke. You're just like, I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, this is the whole fucking movie. This is just Morbius.
That's so funny. Oh my god. I of course watched Mr. Beard has this great thing where he method acts as Jared Leto for a whole video, which was super funny. And then Eddie Brubaker did a movie video where he saw Morbius 6 times in a row, like 6 days in a row, like and it drove him insane. And you're just like,
I'm just so glad there's fucking that trailer for it is out of theaters now.
You're like, thank God. I don't need to see this.
Now I just need them to get rid of that stupid Nicole Kidman AMC ad. I'm so done with it.
I was so glad when I was at Cinemark and I was like, she's not here. Yeah. I was like, good.
Is that the same Cinemark we went to go?
Yes.
We went to see Sonic at?
Yes, that's the one we saw Sonic at, which is now on Paramount Plus, which cracked me up.
Not a bad theater.
No, it's a nice theater. It's nice. And they did a $6 matinee. And I was like, okay, if you sign up for their membership, which is just putting in your email, which I was like, that's fine by me.
It was just surprising that the Coolidge even did a big movie like that,
right?
Because they're usually a little more on the indie cult side, and the fact that they did it in 35mm too.
Oh, that's nice.
So it was nice. It was cool.
That's nice. It definitely there was some great sound design going on. I was really like shaking in the seat with the sound going on for Multiverse of Madness. I thought that was quite great. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys. If we missed anything, please comment down below. If you're like, well, my favorite part was when, like America punched through something, like you're just like, all right, okay. If we missed something.
My favorite part was Rachel McAdams with red hair in that universe. I'm like, well, it was all our favorite part. That just goes without saying. That's why we didn't bring it up.
But guys, please comment down below. Make the algorithm do its thing. Do the thing that you subscribe wherever you're listening or
Feed
watching.
The beast, share the beast. If you like us, talk about it.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, guys, you're listening somewhere or watching somewhere, but you can watch our beautiful faces on YouTube, or you can listen to the audio version on any podcast platform, and I mean that pretty much fucking any podcast platform. We're on everything.
Pretty much.
But if you want to see our beautiful faces, we're on the Galaxy of Geek YouTube, and you want to check out galaxygeek.com, which is where you can get every version of this podcast in every form. And also I posted some Gundam reviews recently. I'm gonna keep posting some Gundam reviews. So if you like my Instagram, Yep Gundam, it's gonna be kind of like that in a review form, but I'll also add my really nice big photos. So that'll be kind of cool. You get some photos you didn't get on Instagram type of thing. So that's cool. If you're into reading, I realized that there wasn't many written Gunpla review places. Lots of YouTubers talking about
which
it.
I guess makes sense. You have like visual
you want to show it off. So I get that, but I was kind of like, I know some people just want to read this shit, so let's start doing articles like that. I'm in the middle of the second article right now, and I'll have that up hopefully soon. So galaxygeek.com is where you can get everything that we do, but if you like our personals, if you'd like to check us out on our personal social medias, I'm Yep Frank on Twitter and Instagram.
Mod Karaika.
And I have Yep Gundam if you like all that Gundam stuff. And basically, guys, thank you for supporting the show. I know that we missed 2 weeks there, but that's because May's crazy, and I had my 30th birthday. I'm old as shit now. So
I'm on my final year of my 20s. Yeah, so I'm not that far behind.
We're getting old, and we do appreciate anybody who listens and continues to listen and support the show. We really do appreciate you. We do it for you guys, and we do it for our own sanity, but we mostly for you guys. And we hope you've kind of learned something today, or feel like you can go and watch Doctor Strange, or you picked up on something that maybe we picked up on or didn't pick up on.
Obviously, we're passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I keep saying that we keep saying in episodes like we're not that big of Marvel guys, and I'm like, I don't know anybody else who's seen all the Marvel Plus show, the Marvel on Disney Plus shows. Like, I know some people, but to be fair, we're pretty experty on the fucking Marvel shows.
Which is ironic because like on the comic side, we're more DC heads.
Yeah, but I would say like when we're talking Marvel stuff, we're pretty much, like we keep saying like we're not experts, but we're pretty much experts on the media, at least.
Definitely watched all of it.
Yeah, exactly. We've definitely gone through it all.
I've seen every MCU movie in theaters.
Yeah, right. So that's pretty fucking good.
Good and
even
bad.
Black Widow.
Yeah, I did see Black Widow. Yeah.
Okay, nice, sick. There you go. I know we watched it at home, and I bought it on Disney Plus, and just to get it like 12 days before it was going to be put on there for free. So now you have this section that's just like, you own Black Widow, and I'm like, sick. I'm like, cool. I was like, that's never gonna leave this. Like, what do you mean I own it? Whatever. It's kind of like Funimation.
Well, you never know.
You made this show.
The way companies shift around and shit, you never know.
It's true. You never know. But guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, and be sure to check out all the other episodes that we cover, all the Marvel shit and the Disney Plus shit. And next up is more Disney Plus shit. So sorry if you don't have Disney Plus yet, but we're not sponsored. They just keep pumping it out.
Yeah.
So we're talking Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers for our next episode. But then we of course have in the pipe Why the Last Man finishing up, and we have Yankee Doodle Dandy
for the next,
and Blade Runner for the next AFI Top 100 movies. So get excited for those episodes. If you don't have to see Yankee Doodle Dandy or even Blade Runner. We'll sum it up. Don't worry. We'll get you there. I think that's the point of the AFI ones, is that if you want to like really know the movies without having to sit down for the fucking movie, we'll got you. We'll do that deep analyzation, so you don't even need analyzation. Sorry about
analyzation.
that. I didn't mean to say that. We want deep analyze these movies, so that way we can you don't have to. So thank you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
See you next time.